In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
For our own cause, we got a pen and telephone to bypass.
Alright folks, this is Rick Robinson with you. I want to tell you about some friends of mine from a company called Security Enforcement Specialists. When I ran my security agency for 12 years, I worked with one of these partners on a daily basis. He's been involved in this agency now, and with his other partner, they do have over 30 years of experience in the private security industry. If you own a business and you need someone to keep you or your customers or residents safe, then I highly recommend contacting Security Enforcement Specialists today. Give them a call at 405-703-1796. Again, that's 405-703-1796. And again, tell them Rick from K98 Talk sent you. Like I said, if you need the help, they are here for you. So make sure that you go look them up, check them out, and see what they can do.
The wrong way. Welcome to the place. Welcome to the
Joe had huge problems with the IRS.
I knew it was coming. I hadn't filed taxes since 1990.
All the IRS letters coming in added up to a nightmare.
To get up to like $68,000. My heart started beating fast. It's like, there's no way, man. I mean, I ain't going to be able to do this.
Then they stopped his paycheck.
So that's when I started making phone calls and found U.S. Tax Shield.
U.S. Tax Shield went to work immediately.
They just took the bull by the horns. What blew my mind is he called the IRS right then and there.
So why is U.S. Tax Shield A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau? Joe knows.
They saved me a ridiculous amount of money.
If you owe more than $10,000 to the IRS or state, choose the company Joe chose, U.S. Tax Shield.
It was the best decision I made. U.S. Tax Shield is the way to go. Life is good. Thank you, Lord.
Call 800-471-3287.
U.S. Tax Shield. Boo-rah. Yes.
800-471-3287. 800-471-3287.
The internet will never be the same. You're listening to K98Talk.com.
Good God, y'all. What is it good for? Absolutely. Let's get started again.
Good evening, good morning, wherever, depending on where you are around the globe, in the chat room or wherever you might be. This is Late Night in the Midlands, and I am Michael Vera. So, folks in the chat room, everybody doesn't come into the chat room who listens. We've got listeners everywhere. Tune in, iTunes. I go on and on. I mean, there's just so many places, not to mention the AM and FMs who also pick us up, and so on and so forth. So by the way, there is a chat room if some of you are listening and would like to. It's actually a moderated chat room, so you don't have to worry about getting in there and being hounded by trolls, because that don't happen in this chat. It might for a second, but it don't last but a second, I promise you. So go over to LateNightInTheMidlands.com and click on the chat and listen button. You'll see a big red button on the homepage. Click it right up at the top there, chat and listen. Take you right over to the chat and listen page where you could join everybody else while you listen to not only this show, but all the shows that run on the L&M radio network. It is Friday night, and tonight we're going to talk about something that is dear to my heart. And I know that many of you who listen know that we cover a whole lot more than just ET and ghost phenomena. Some things are, well, they're more paranormal than the paranormal. And what we're going to talk about tonight, it's scary. It's scary as hell. It's real. It's true. It's happening now. It's happening over all of our heads. I know most hosts like to come in neutral, and they like to say, could it be, or will it happen? And, well, I'm here to tell you I'm a little different than some of the others. I actually do my research, and I promise you, chemtrails, geoengineering is very, very real. It is happening, and it's happening over your head right now as we speak, okay? And you know, there are some places who I've had people say, I never see it. Well, I'm afraid you just don't know what you're looking for if you've never seen it, because everywhere, and I've traveled a lot of places around the country, and everywhere I've gone, I have seen chemtrails. You might say, well, maybe everywhere you've gone, you're seeing natural phenomena, cloud phenomena. Well, you know, I might have gone along with that maybe 10 years ago. I absolutely not. No way. I have pictures of when I was growing up, and none of them have this kind of cloud in the sky. Go back and look at your photos, folks. You can see for yourself. Better yet, get your butt up. I know listening to this show might not get you up real early, all right? But get up in the morning. Come on out, get your cup of coffee, whatever it is you do, and chill out for a little bit. Look up in the sky, and you'll see, you know, a regular, you know, line in the sky, and you'll think, well, that's normal. That's just a chemtrail. Well, you'll notice after a little while that it spreads out. And not only one, but then they'll come by, another plane will come by and throw another one up there, usually an X formation. And then another one will come in. It's almost like they're playing tic-tac-toe up there. And before long, these things spread out. They spread out so wide and so thick that it looks like some kid threw a temper tantrum and just scribbled the sky with chalk. And that's what it looks like. And I could understand where somebody who is not in the know, especially somebody who looks down all the time at their iPhones and not up at our sky, I could see how you might miss something like that. But I'm telling you now, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, okay? I'll get into some of this stuff, these conspiracies, and if it is a theory, I'll say it's a theory. I'm telling you right now, geoengineering is not a conspiracy theory. It is real. It is absolutely real. And we're going to talk about it tonight with my guest, Scott Stevens. He is a former meteorologist, and I'm looking forward to talking to him. And I don't know if you're ever a former. That's like saying he's a former doctor. I mean, he's still a doctor, right? But he's still a meteorologist. He could still do it. So that's who we're talking to tonight. Now I have a little bit of news that I'd like to share with you. Here's a little marijuana news for you all. Marijuana helps heal broken bones and even makes them stronger, scientists have discovered. Well, I also discovered that if you get the right strand, you could even break bones. How convenient. A marijuana chemical known as cannabinoid is, they say it helps fractures heal faster and even makes the bones stronger than they were before. Bigger, better, and stronger than they were before. According to a study conducted by researchers from Tel Aviv University and Hebrew University and published in the Journal of Bone and Mineral Research, CBD, they says, has no psychotropic effects. That this, apparently, it's not the THC, it's another chemical within the plant, and it helps. I'm telling you, this is God's plant, folks. This is, if you said this a few years ago, people would accuse you of just being some big pothead, and you just think it's cool to smoke pot. Listen, that plant is a miracle plant. It has so many wonderful things it does for the human body besides the buzz. I'm talking about everything else. And let's face it, if it wasn't for marijuana, how many more murders might there have been in this planet as of today? Speaking from my own experience, I could think of a few people who might have blown me off the top back in the heyday if it wasn't for that godly plant. It really is a godly plant. It does so much. It cures cancers. It cures arthritises and all kinds of different things. It helps people with seizures and kids, and my God. And you don't have to smoke it. There's other ways of using it. You don't even have to get a buzz from it, really, if you don't want to. So anyways, get this, our bones contain cannabinoid receptors. So we have these receptors for this in our body. So, come on. Is it a coincidence that this plant is on the earth and it interacts with our body so well? It was given to us. We were supposed to use it. But, through the years, Big Pharma, they had to make their bucks, folks. They had to make their bucks. How are they going to do that if everybody's out there getting some marijuana? So they had to, And then, of course, you got what's-her-puss there on the fake news, Nancy Face or whatever her name is, who's always trying to show videos of parents getting their kids high. Well, those are idiots. People who do that, they're idiots. They're more than that. They're criminal. Okay, people who do that. You're going to find idiots in every bunch. There's guys and women out there, parents out there who will put their kid in the driver's seat and let them drive the car down the dirt road. That could hurt somebody. There's parents out there who take their kids out into the woods and let them shoot off a gun. So there's that too. There's even those idiot parents now, who will give their kids alcohol. So, you could find idiots in every barrel of apples. That I promise you. So, anyways, there it is. You want to heal your bones quicker, you know what to do. I just told you. And it is linked up on News and Discovery on LateNightInTheMidlands.com. Why is NASA and the U.S. media covering up a devastating meteor strike in Iran? I'll tell you what I'm doing. I'm working on getting a guest here next week to talk about this. We're going to try to get to the crevices and cracks of this thing and find out exactly what's going on over there in Iran. Believe me, I'm working on it feverishly, and I'm not just bringing on any guest. I'm looking for the guest for that. So next week, probably by Wednesday, we should have that squared away because I want to know what's going on over there. They say all eyes are on Iran right now because of the Iran nuke deal, or are they? As previously reported, that whole thing is likely theater. It usually is, it says here. America is the only nation that's ever used nuclear weapons anyway in 70 years. Well, that's true. So while attention is diverted talking about the nuke deal and Cecil the Lion, Is anyone mentioning that a meteor impact, actually multiple impacts, hit Iran just a few days ago? Now, it did. This happened. You know, I've tried to find there's no flaws. The mainstream media is not covering this, and I'm curious. I tried to call today, but you know what? You're going to call, you record the call, and all you get is one of their flunkies who come on and say, well, I could give you the email, and you could email this department. I mean, you're not going to get anywhere calling them. I've tried, but do it anyways. Let them know, you know, they're fake, but they're not covering this. It's really, really crazy. The meteor apparently affected several towns, and I mean several. I'm guessing somewhere around 7 or 8 different cities or towns in Iraq. I mean, it did some damage. There's a video there also on News and Discovery, so you can go check it out. YouTube video, a couple of them actually, that are on it. A couple of guys who are speaking about this, but you know, you're not seeing it in the news. I mean, I had the fake news on all night last night, you know, because we were watching the puppet debate, and you know, I didn't see any mention of it, and I flipped through some channels. I didn't see anything, nothing at all. X-Files creator says he wants to believe the man who created the X-Files. I love that show, by the way, and I'm glad it's coming back, and I hope it makes it. I used to actually use that music as my startup when I very first, I don't know, a few months I did this show. That's what I used. So it says the man who created the X-Files TV show maintains that his views echo those of Mulder's. In an iconic poster. He says that the original cast members will be back, at least I think 5 of them. David Duchovny and Gilligan Anderson will be back. Some of the original characters, Mulder and Scully. I'm looking forward to watching it. I'm not a big TV watcher, but stuff like this I get into because they're touching on real stuff, really. I mean, they are. I think most of what they covered on the X-Files was based on you know, true theories or stories or what have you, or conspiracies, if you will. So I found it very interesting. The new series creator, Chris Carter, will also be drawing upon more recent events, including revelations by WikiLeaks of government-sanctioned eavesdropping and cover-ups. So they're going to get into some of these topics. And it'll be kind of like Jesse's conspiracy theory was. I mean, basically that's what it was a TV show. I mean, and, you know, they touched on some of these topics, got them out there, got people talking about them. I mean, why not, right? Hiroshima and Nagasaki, 70 years ago, the U.S. elite murdered 500,000 Japanese civilians to send a warning to Russia. Blackened bodies, mothers who couldn't recognize their charred children, and those still alive screaming with pain. These are horrific details the survivors of nuclear bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki recall ahead of the 70th anniversary of the tragedy. And what a tragedy it was. I mean, just imagine something like that happening in your city. Can you imagine? I mean, I feel for, you know, back when I was a kid, they had me believing, yay, I'm glad we did it, it ended the war and all that stuff. And really, they had me believing that. I was one of those people who thought it was a good thing, right? But it's not a good thing. It never was a good thing. Innocent people, poor children, died. And, you know, here we are, a race of beings who create some of the most heinous, some of the most destructive weapons on Earth. I mean, and then we wonder why E.T. doesn't come down and want to shake our hands. That's probably why they abduct us. That's probably the only way they can make contact with us, because, you know, I bet they, you know, in most homes, they'd go to walk in the house or knock at the door and probably get shot. So, you know, that's probably the only way they can communicate with us is through crop circles and abductions. They say more than 80,000 civilians died immediately as a result of the Hiroshima bomb. You know, I've seen some videos on that, and I'll tell you what, they're horrifying. Things like that, I mean, that's as horrible as cutting people's heads off. It's worse. At least cutting your head off, you got a fighting chance. You could swing, make them shoot you. But man, this, whew. Anyway, 70 years, folks, 70 years. I wonder why they're, I know why they're reminding us because of the anniversary, but nevertheless, I hope that no part of the world ever has to go through that again. All right, so we've got a few minutes before I've got to take the break. One more thing I want to touch on here. I'm going to actually do a couple predictions tonight, and I'll tell you why. I'm going to tell you why I'm doing this. It's because, well, somebody has tipped my cow, shall we say, tonight, and so I figured I'd speak about it briefly. I've asked a certain person, a certain doctor, and no, not the, Dr. Torrey. I've asked him not to post Coast to Coast AM stuff on my pages. I've asked him over and over and over again not to post Coast to Coast AM stuff on my pages because I don't promote fake news. I don't promote people who behind the scenes attack me. Okay, I don't do that. So I asked him, please don't do that. And it has been getting annoying. This has been a long time coming. I don't like when people block their pages, whatever it might be, block their pages so that you can't post anything on their pages, but every time you turn around, they're posting on your page about how great they are and how they're connected with God and how they can see the future and this just constantly going on and on. Then you look into it and you see that, to talk to a person like this on Skype, no less, you're going to pay over $700 to talk with a person like that. That's, I don't know. To each your own. I'm not, and I'm not going to get in a, for lack of a better word, a pissing match here over all this. I'm going to speak about it once and then that's it. He could do what he wants with it. But I had to block him today. I had enough. I told him that, Coast has told guests of mine not to come on my show. They've also told him not to mention Late Night in the Midlands or Michael Vera while they're on their show. Now, you'll notice that a lot of guests who come on my show mention Coast to Coast all the time. And do I cut them off and tell them what a horrible thing a radio station or show they are or any of that? I don't do that. I leave it alone. I let them go on and talk about what they're talking about because that's not the time or place for it. But over on Coast, they refuse. They won't let anybody. You'll never hear me or my show mentioned over there. And if you call in and try to do it, the delay will get you. So anyways, he asked for proof. Well, here's the thing, all right? When guests tell me things like this, usually it comes with some confidentiality. They obviously want to continue to be guests over there because you sell a lot of stuff when you go on a show like that, right? So obviously they don't want to burn that bridge, and I'm not going to hurt their trust by burning it for them. I will mention one guest who's told me this, who is now deceased, so I don't think there's any problem in mentioning it now. Psychic Helene Olsen is one guest now. Does she come off to you as somebody who lies? I don't think so. I loved Helene. She was a great guest, and she was loyal, came on the show on a regular basis, and did a wonderful job when she was here. And she told me that Coast to Coast AM told her that she was not to mention me or my show on the air, and if she did, they'd cut her off. She was also advised not to be associated with Late Night in the Midlands anymore. If you remember, Helene used to have a show on the LNM radio network. If you recall, Helene removed her show from the L&M radio network. She did that so she could continue to be a guest on Coast to Coast AM. Now, I don't fault Helene for that. She's doing what's best for her and her family. I respect that. But for Dr. Torrey to question me and ask for proof, a guy's asking me for proof that apparently I guess I don't need proof. All I need to do is take his word for it that he's connected with God and doing all these wonderful things. Well, anyhow, so that's where we're at tonight. So I'm going to show you how easy it is to do these so-called predictions. Because I've had them on the show enough. I've seen these people. I've seen how they work. I know what time it is. All right. So here we go. I'll go right into the whole act and everything. All right. So here, let me get my acting cap on here. All right. Okay. I am going to give you prediction. Between August 9th and 13th, there will be fire. There will be crying. There will be death in the USA. Remember, between 9th and 13th, fire, crying, death in USA. Now, keep in mind, folks, that could be anything. A bird could go through the window of a bus, and that bus could roll off the road. I guarantee there was crying, there was death, and there was probably a little fire, and it was probably in the USA. There's my first prediction. I'm going to give you another one here. Between August 19th and 24th, much water, then fire, and wind, with several dead. Okay? So, now, keep in mind, between the 9th and 13th, and the 19th and the 24th, all these things will happen. Now, I'm going to go back on these. On the 9th, between the 9th and 13th, between those shows, I will come back on the air, and I will show you an incident that has happened somewhere in the United States that will match up to what I just said. And I will also find an incident in the U.S. between the 19th and 24th that matches up with this one. The water, then the fire, and the wind, and several dead. All right? I'm just going to do this. I'm doing this because, I guess I'm gifted and I could predict these things. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So there's my predictions. Now let's see. What's today's date? We are the 7th. So, by, mid next week, I'll be prepared to show you how my predictions came true. And guess what, guys? I'm not even going to charge you $700 to tell you this. I'm Michael Vera. This is Late Night in the Midlands on the L&M Radio Network. We'll be back in just a few minutes.
Hello, this is Dick Farrell, here to tell you about OxySilver. Legally available only through CureShop.com and HealthyWorldStore.com. Don't be fooled buying silver products from copycats and criminals. You've heard Dr. Leonard Horowitz and experts urge you to avoid deadly vaccinations and illegal operators selling stolen OxySilver and OxySilver copycats. You've heard experts tell you about suppression in alternative medicine and confusing propaganda in healthcare and the truth movement. Read Dr. Horowitz's book, Healing Celebrations, to learn how miracle healings can be made to happen through faith, prayer, and a pure diet. Get great immunity using vitamin C, D, and OxySilver, Liquid Dentist, GI Flora Pro, a top-shelf probiotic. Use Green Harvest as a great-tasting meal substitute for energizing organic nutrients and losing weight. And Zeola, and natural clays for detoxifying your body. More advice, all these products and more are available from TheCureShop.com. including Oxy Silver, the world's most powerful silver hydrosol. Electro-energized to put risky injections, toxic antibiotics, and deadly drug pushers out of business. Oxy Silver is covalently bonded to water. Unlike any other silver product using the frequency of chlorophyll 528, what Dr. Horowitz explains is pure tone love, the universal healer. NASA originally developed covalently body silver hydrosols to keep astronauts healthy in space. Dr. Horowitz added the 528 frequency to NASA's formula and more. Oxy Silver works 3 ways to electrocute dangerous germs better than anything, far better than all leading silver products, and without any risk. Oxy Silver oxygenates and resonates with 528 for faster healing. So help save lives, putting drug lords and criminals out of business, and keep the LNM network broadcasting. Register for our free cooperative at healthworldaffiliates.com/4948. That's healthyworldaffiliates.com/4948. And buy Oxy Silver and other great products in package specials at great discounts from theCureShop.com. Buy Oxy Silver, GI Flora Pro, Green Harvest, Zeolove, and Love Minerals at great discounts at CureShop.com. That's CureShop.com with 2 P's. CureShoppe.com. Or call toll free at 1-888-621-7611. That's 1-888-621-7611. Do it now.
The LNM Radio Network and Late Night in the Midlands depends on you, the listener. Without you, there would be no us. So help us continue to bring you the best guests with the best information, and subscribe today. Information on becoming an LNM subscriber can be found at the top of LateNightInTheMidlands.com. Just click the About Subscriptions tab and become part of the family while helping the truth stay alive. And while you're at it, maybe subscriptions aren't for you. A one-time donation helps as well. Click that donate button on the right side of LateNightInTheMidlands.com and help us help you. The LNM Radio Network offers a moderated chat room at www.latenightinthe.midlands.com. Just click the chat and listen page from the drop-down menu at the top of any page on the website, or click the listen live button at the top of the homepage at www.latenightinthe.midlands.com.
Become a late nighter without the late nights. And subscribe now to help Late Night in the Midlands bring you the best guests with the best information.
For 15 years, I've been obsessed to find out what was going on inside of him. It's been my life work and my ultimate failure. This force, this thing that lived inside of him, came from a source too violent, too deadly for you to imagine. It grew inside him, contaminating his soul. It was pure evil.
On the east coast of the United States, from the capital city, Columbia, South Carolina, you're listening to Late Night in the Midlands with your host, Michael Vera. To talk to Michael Vera, dial 803-317-2264 or around the world on Skype. Just use Skype ID Late Night in the Midlands.
This is Scott.
Hey, Scott, this is Michael Vera with Late Night in the Midlands. How are you tonight?
I'm good tonight, Michael.
Well, it's great to have you on the show. I'm looking forward to talking with you, and we are live.
We are live. Well, let's just get right to it then.
All right, great. And if you could, I don't know if you got the show on in the background, if you could turn that down, because...
No, I do not. I'm
okay.
in a quiet place.
All right, great. Well, Scott, I've read off the bio, and I'm looking forward to this conversation, I think. I don't like the idea of what they're doing in the skies, but I know it's true. So, Scott, I guess a little background on you. And what led you into all this?
Oh, wow. You know, I loved weather from the time I was a kid. I got into weather when I was a Boy Scout at 12 years of age. I was thumbing through the Merit Badge book, came across weather, read the requirements, and I thought, I can do this one. And one of the requirements was to build a weather station or assemble a weather station. I built and assembled. And then also to watch the evening news, log the high and low temperature for your town, plus what you recorded at your weather station, and then compare forecasts. And I began doing that. And it was over a summer break. I was 12 years old, so this was late 70s. And I got hooked on weather at that point in time. And I just never quit watching the evening news, the 10 o'clock news specifically, because of that. And I fell in love with it. I was already kind of into astronomy, and so it was just another aspect of the sky. From the time I was 7 or 8, I was building model airplanes. So it's funny how the things that happen in your youth profoundly affect where you end up career-wise or interest-wise as you grow into adulthood. So my fascination with weather started when I was a young guy. The beautiful thing with the scouting is that it enabled me to get mentored by a local meteorologist in eastern Idaho. We became good friends. And all the way through the remainder of junior high and high school, this weatherman became one of my best friends. Anytime we would come to town, because we lived probably 40, 45 miles away from any substantial city. I lived out in the country. And so Mom would come in for shopping or for errands or whatever. She'd drop me off at the station. So I was there in the afternoons and evenings with Ken. Ken Torrey was his name. He was putting together his forecast. I got to the point where my senior year of high school, he's like, Scott, a job has opened up here. Is this something you'd be interested in? And I'm like, yeah. And I ended up having to move. I left home early, moved in with Ken and his family, and then took my first job as a production assistant with KIFI in eastern Idaho. And so before I got to college, I had been in and around the TV station for 5 years. And that really showed up when it came to operational forecasting. That first year at university, at KU, we had a forecast contest. It was broken up. It was a national. I think there were 18 universities participating, and I was in the freshman-sophomore division, and then there was, of course, junior-senior. By the end of that first semester, I was in second place nationally. So that teaching that started very young, really kind of set a really good firm foundation with me. And from there, by the time I was second semester sophomore, I was on the air in Topeka. I was doing mornings, cut-ins for Good Morning America. And shortly, within 10 months, I had gone through the morning guy to the weekend guy to the main guy. And within a year, I was up in Omaha, Nebraska, at 23 years old, with an outfit that's still on the air now called RFD TV, Rural Free Delivery. You can get them on satellite. It was a startup. My first and second paycheck bounced, so that wasn't necessarily a good thing. But it's just kind of the way it is in this business. And I learned agricultural forecasting, commodities forecasting, pipeline capacity, and I had guys that were like, hey, if we've got a cold outbreak coming, I need to know so that we can, buy some capacity on a natural gas pipeline. And so I became aware of the intricacies of how important weather is for business, for making a living for farming, growing up in the rural areas in eastern Idaho, and then having that hammered home by RFD forecasting and watching what happens at the CME, Chicago Mercantile Exchange, with futures and so forth. From there, I went down to Tulsa and was the morning at the NBC affiliate there, and that was Tornado Alley. That was a lot of tornado chasing and being in the station with our own radar and guiding teams out in the field. From there, I was up to Albany, New York, where I was the main guy at WRGB, and then I came back west and was in Idaho for the last 10 years of my career. And it was while I was in Idaho that in the late 90s, I became concerned about my accuracy. I was, 5, 6, and 10 o'clock. I'm, so this is going to be tomorrow. This is what happened today, and telling the story, delivering the news, and the accuracy was going down. I was also keenly aware of what the guys in Washington, D.C. at the Weather Prediction Center, as it's now called, they will issue essentially what we call model discussions, or their insights as to what the extended forecast is going to be. So they have access to all of the models that the Europeans put out, that the Canadians put out, that the military has, that our domestic or civilian agencies have. And so they're trying to assemble the best look at what's going to happen in the next 3 to 7 days. And they write up a discussion twice a day. So often in these late 90s winters, they were qualifying this 8-paragraph discussion with, guys, we have low confidence in what we've talked about will actually transpire. And I'm like, well, if you guys don't know what's going on, then it's left to us in the field to kind of pick up the slack for your, and I hate to use another word, but it really is, it's a blindness. It's a blindness as to what's coming.
Yeah.
And so I would kind of share this with my audience, my viewers. But the last thing a weatherman wants to do is the day after, let's just say you've got a winter storm coming in. It's a week before Christmas. The ski resorts would love to have fresh 3 feet of powder because they've got people coming in from the East Coast. They're coming in from California. They're coming in from wherever to ski. The road departments, the highway departments want to know if they've got the staff for a winter storm. They want to know if they've got to have the guys ready to man the plows and deal with the sand trucks and so forth. The utilities have to have capacity ready. The city needs to know how to staff these things. So there's a lot of people watching you.
Right.
Their lives and their day-to-day things are dependent on you. And so you're kind of aware of this.
You're kind of like you're kind of like the quarterback of the team. You get all the slack.
You do, but at the same time, you've got all the information, or you think you do, about what's going to happen. And I'm telling you, Mike, there were storm after storm, where 4 to 8, 12 in the mountains, 12 to 18 in the high country. We would get nothing but a flurry. And I'm like, what's happening? What's going on? And then droughts would develop. And you're like, well, the storms are still coming in. We're still getting the same frequency of storms. The intensity looks to be substantially similar to previous winters. But why aren't we getting the snow? Why isn't the precipitation manifesting? And that when I, always with an eye to the alternative media, was coming across the term chemtrail. Chemtrail. And then I'd read the little story. I'm like, oh, good God, guys, don't we have enough conspiracies in the world we can really leave the weather out of this, can't we? Can we really? We gotta leave the weather out of this. We can't. There's Kennedy. There's all the Fed. There's enough conspiracies in the world. Let's leave the weather alone. And that's where I was for 2-3 years. And then chemtrail story. And I think I was reading Jeff Rense and Coast to Coast and a few websites like that at the time. And I was seeing pictures of jet exhaust, and I'm like, yeah, I can explain that away. It's rational. And there's a way to deal with this picture in my mind, and there was. And I know there's a massive contingent of those weather professionals who still look at these pictures in that same point of view that I had 15 years ago, and I can understand it.
Yeah.
And then I was always into alternative energy. We've got to be through with this age of petroleum. There's got to be a graduation. We went from a horse and buggy, we went to the car, where there's got to be something beyond gasoline and petroleum and fuel oil. There's got to be something beyond that. And that's kind of where my energy was researching. And in that field, I came across Lieutenant Colonel Bearden's website, Cheniere.org, CHENIERE.org. And on one of his pages, there was a sidebar, and it was titled Soviet Weather Engineering. And I'm like, oh, well, this is kind of curious. And his webmaster, Tony Craddock, had put up a few pictures of altocumulus clouds, and they had an odd kind of shape to them, but I had seen that before. And, I read a little more, and thought, okay, let's file this one away. And, again, more chemtrail stories were showing up. And about that time, I think it was probably 2000, late 2000, 2001, I took the splurge and bought an Olympus digital camera. I'm like, I'm done with this film stuff. But, 36 roll of film, you're already at $9 for that. It's another $15 to get it processed. And, I was kind of into the instant gratification concept. And so I tootled onto eBay and bought a 1.3 megapixel digital camera. Started framing the sky. I would take it on the dock walks and out into, out when I would go out. And in that simple action of taking that square viewfinder and pointing it at the sky, I began to see those things that Tony had put up on Tom Bearden's website. I began to see those patterns. And so instead of dismissing it as, oh, I've seen that before, I began looking for it. I began looking for the sky for things that in my education, in my teaching, in my experience, I didn't think should be there. That is a square cloud, or that's not right over there. And, oh, yeah, there are two jets side by side, and one's got a trail and one doesn't. Not that I didn't have that aha moment until quite a few years later, but nevertheless. So I began to document the sky in a whole different way, with an eye to the unusual, rather than for just the beauty of the picture. And my library began to grow. And so by 2003, I was certain that we were dealing with some kind of weather manipulation using scalar energies. Energy from the vacuum was being pulled in from the vacuum, from the unseen, from the etheric, from, as NASA terms it, dark energy. That sphere of influence, that dimension was being opened by this technology. And thermodynamicists, those people that believe, and I was one of them, that heat and humidity drive weather, would say to me when I first came out on this, how can you change the weather? You need untold amounts of heat and humidity or heat to do this. And my understanding was just kind of on the beginnings. I didn't really care how they did it. I just saw that it could be done. I could see the end result. How they got from point A to point B wasn't exactly clear to me, and honestly, it didn't matter. It didn't matter, because I was dealing with the effects of what they were doing at 5 and 6 and 10 o'clock every night. And so by 2003, I was starting to share this with some of the other guys in the market in Eastern Idaho, some of the other weathermen. And I would go out to the Weather Service probably once a week, either on a tour with scouts or, in their outreach and their education programs and their severe weather training. There were plenty of opportunities to go out there and share these observations with these guys. And so when we were done with whatever gathering, they had called, I would sit down with the guy at the terminal, and I'm like, let's pull up a satellite image, and let's look at this, and I would point out this and that and some of the other geometry, and they're like, oh, that's kind of cool. I would have never seen that if you hadn't pointed it out. I was pointing out big holes and thunderstorms and how a pair of holes or darkening openings in a what they call an extratropical cyclone or a cold front, essentially, was the pivot points around which snowstorms were bent or would get their curvature or their shape. It was always these 2 points. So there were these series of interlocking points you could see moving in the satellite imagery that is simply noise unless you begin to look at them, that there's a relationship between those points and the surrounding clouds. And, you point it out and you can't help but see it from that moment on. And so I was doing what I could and dropping little seeds here and there. All the while, chemtrail in the alternative media. And I'm like, oh, guys, I see it, but I didn't know why. So I had my big aha in it was early June of 04. There was a shape of a cold front up in Montana. It was June 6th. Not a big, substantial cold front, but the geometry in it was just too wrong to be natural. And my stomach sunk, and my whole worldview changed. At that point, I had accepted that we could manipulate small-scale things. If they wanted to pump up a thunderstorm here or there to drop some hail and tear up a crop or damage a city, okay, I could go with that. If you wanted to pulse storms to inhibit rainfall so you could accentuate an existing drought, you could do that. I was there. I was giving him that much. But in seeing this cold front in 04, I was like, oh, good God, they've digitized everything. The whole planet has been cut up by waves, and they guide and resonate these waves, and in these waves are either constructive or destructive to the formation of clouds and to storm fronts. And these holes that I was seeing were the pivot points around which the waves would emanate from or be constrained or bend around, much like a magnet stuck in the middle of a pile of iron filings. You move the magnets, and then all of the filings, the iron would jump around. And this would also then play into the metals in the chemtrails. In time, I would figure that out. And so I decided, okay, we've got geometry. Most of the weather, if not all of the weather, is somehow influenced by this resonant geometry that they're introducing into the atmosphere. I didn't know where from. I didn't know exactly how. I could just see that it was being there. And, of course, HAARP is everywhere. Everybody's writing about HAARP this, HAARP that, and all we see in the news is one antenna up in Alaska. I'm like, oh, guys, you're so full of it. One antenna is not capable of doing all of this, and at this fine a scale, unreachable. That's a bridge too far for me to cross. So by late 2004, I was determined to figure out something so I could give my audience a better forecast. I bought 4 cameras, 2 computers, and some time-lapse software. Put it around the house and just kind of got my trees. I couldn't really see up to the north and northeast very well, or even I had a big old Colorado blue spruce over off the southeast, so I had to kind of work around that. But within 4 months, I caught a series of flights that let me know exactly what the chemtrails were about. And the chemtrails were a whole side issue. I didn't want to go there. I knew they were part of it. I just didn't know how. I wanted to see what the clouds were doing, and if there was a way I could figure out shapes in the satellite to, enhancing a storm or decreasing a storm. That's what I was after. But on April 29th of 2005, it was my camera that was looking out across the southeast. And in the span of about 20 minutes, now I had this webcam taking a shot every 4 seconds. Every 4 seconds, it would take a picture and take a picture and take a picture and take a picture. I saw about 12 planes. They all left trails. Some were larger than others. But out of those planes, only one left a big trail. And there was a segment of that one plane's trail that persisted far, far longer than all the others. And my question to myself, and when I'm watching this, is, okay, so why is that plane's trail so different than the others? What's going on here? And I had already seen that some trails had a bluish cast, blue-white, and others were pinkish, orangish to a pale rose color. I'd already noticed that there were those different colors.
So separate emissions.
One trail, yeah, different emissions from the planes. But part of this trail just never faded away as it was beginning to drift out of frame. Another plane came along and hit the exact end of it at an angle. Precisely hit the end of the trail. And then another one, just as it was leaving frame, went right through the middle of the trail. And I'm like, aha. All right, we've got waves undulating the atmosphere, and we've got these planes flying across these waves. Some of these waves are ascending, and we all know when you've got a cloud ascending or a parcel of moisture ascending, that it's going to cool. And as it cools, the atmosphere, the moisture is eventually going to condense into cloud form. And if it's descending, it's adiabatic, or it's warming, it's drying out. But this segment of the trail didn't do any of that. So it was revealing some other behavior in the atmosphere that wasn't related to traditional meteorology. It was showing off some other phenomenon that these other 2 planes were interested in hitting the end and then the middle of. And so I thought, it's all about laying out a graph. You take a piece of graph paper, and then you watch that graph paper. Those powder lines just kind of take form. Let's just represent the atmosphere is now an Olympic-sized swimming pool. And you take these chalk lines, like the guy who's roofing, and you snap this chalk line on a roof so you can lay out your shingles in a straight line. These airplanes are the exact same kind of thing, except on an undulating surface of water. Except we're not dealing with just the surface. 2 inches underneath the surface of this Olympic-sized pool, there's another layer of atmosphere. 5 inches below that, there's another one. A foot below that, there's another one. so there's all of these discrete layers of the atmosphere that are moving in different directions.
Oh, wow.
And as I was then comparing the balloon data that was being sent up with the way the clouds were moving, Michael, there was almost no relationship whatsoever. So these clouds were moving independent of the wind. And then, as I figured that out, I understood why the guys in Washington, D.C. couldn't get a forecast out of the Pacific correctly, because they're using satellite soundings. These satellites are sounding the atmosphere and measuring how the clouds are moving. And so that data is then sent back to D.C. and run through the computer models. So, if these clouds are not attached to the wind, bad data is going into the computer models. The clouds are attached to some other electrical field. And that's why the metals in the chemtrails are so important. It gives us the discrete layers in the atmosphere that you can have one cloud moving west at 50 miles an hour, another cloud 3,000 feet above it, moving 50 miles in the exact opposite direction, and the balloon will go straight up through it and not be impacted at all. And that's the reveal. That's the reveal. So the guys are getting bad data in their models, and this is why they have a low confidence in their issued forecasts. And that's why your weatherman some days just throws his hands in the air and said, I tried.
Do these other weathermen, I mean, they've got to be noticing and realizing that something's strange, right? I mean, can they see this in the radars, or do they really have to be looking for it? You would think after a while, some of them start saying, now, wait a minute, what's going on here? Like you did.
Well, I think it's the difference between, you've got two different kinds of police detectives or policemen. One is a detective, and one is just on the beat. And the detective is specifically looking for a crime. The policeman on the beat is not. He's just there for presence. And I think we have so many meteorologists, so many TV presenters, whether they have AMS or NWA seals of approval, that means nothing. That means nothing. That they're just giving you how do I say this and be kind? The accepted, let's say, best practices. They're just doing what is termed best practices. But I looked at it as a detective. I came at this because my accuracy, I was having to apologize in front of my audience. Well, not necessarily apologize, but try to explain what happened. And as I dug deeper, my awareness was to the point where I was willing to look at information that others wouldn't have. And I suppose that's the defining difference. I was willing to look at information that others wouldn't. Because I had nobody call me and ask about chemtrails. Nobody. And I doubt that there's a weatherman in this country that sits at his desk in the afternoon and evening that has not had to field a call like that from a viewer in 2015. But in 2004, that never happened to me. In 2004, I don't think that happened to very many other weathermen. But today they're confronted with this, and they don't know how to answer it unless they've had the desire to go figure it out. And I had that burning desire. I had to know.
And I'm glad that you did, because, not enough people were buying this. And I got to tell you, years ago, I'd hear about this kind of thing, and I didn't even, I'd hear chemtrail, and I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I don't even want to know, But now, I mean, once you know it's that red pill, there's no going back. And I mean, I see it every day here, and it gets me so angry. It's like, what are they doing, and why are they doing it? And you say it's weather wars, but against who? It seems like it'd be against we the people.
It's against everything. There's so many reasons to have it. If you can create a cloud that you could bounce transmissions off of, If you can create a smear in the sky that becomes an antenna, you could use it. So there's a lot of nefarious reasons. And to be honest with you, Michael, there are probably a half a dozen purposes for this that I've never even considered.
Yeah.
Never even considered. Because, once you begin to look at what actually comprises the trails, I mean, take the particles and look at them. Look at how they're made. And then if you were to talk about that, I don't think you'd be long on this earth. Because then the reveal of what they are, how they're made, and their multi-purpose use would become very clear. And then I think there's other purposes for this that I've not talked about publicly that would get me in trouble. And I'm very content to keep it into meteorology because that's my profession and that's where it was impacting me, and that's where most people see it as. There's a group that see it related to solar radiation management, and I can throw that out with the bathwater. It's not. It has nothing to do with it. Not a thing. Our planet is not warming. That stopped. We're 18 years and 7 months now without any substantial warming on this planet, independent of the El Nino La Nina cycles, which can skew those things for upwards of 18 months. But the trend is flat to slightly down.
So could this? I'm sorry. Could this be then one of the reasons that they're doing it is to stop the planet? I can't give them credit for doing anything good because they never do. So it's hard for me to do that. But could that be a reason?
It would be for their own purposes.
It's hurting the planet, though.
I think they're key. I think ultimately it comes down to simply eco-terrorism. It's eco-terrorism. The planet has been turned into a tool to make money and to terrorize the population, to terrorize the biosphere. And, I have no problem going there. The people doing this are not from here. That there's a technology and an agenda that is not in humanity's best interest. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. It is not in our best interest. And so when we can get honorable leadership back in the positions of government, and I don't care whether you're talking about, American, Canadian, Mexican, UK, the EU, Japanese, Chinese, Russian, I don't care. They all fall under that same umbrella. There's no difference. There's no difference. Otherwise, we would have had a much, much grander break between the Western world and the Western way of thinking. And if there is to be a break, I think that's why we're antagonizing Russia to such an extent, is because they have got the intelligence agencies and the ability to be in space as well as we do to tell our secrets. And so I think that's why we are testing Putin and testing Putin and testing Putin and waiting for him to strike at us. Because we are absolutely the antagonist in this relationship because he could spill their secrets. And they want a reason to go in and do whatever they can do to that agent.
I see.
But, this is because in Colonel Bearden's work, going back 40 minutes ago, he was in Army intelligence. And it was Bearden's office that briefed the executive branch of the Reagan administration in 1984 on the scale of weaponry that the Soviets had developed and deployed. And according to him, the USS Thrusher, it was just shortly after the Bay of Pigs incident, where the Russians were able to leverage essentially a Tesla technology and weaponize the energy from the vacuum. Going back even farther in time into the wake of World War II, Joseph Stalin was a little bit freaked out by how aggressively we were building atomic bombs. It only took 3 of them to end World War II, the test bomb and then the 2 on Japan. That was 3. It was done. The war was done. But yet we kept building and experimenting and bombing and bombing and bombing and blowing up, and all of this show of force, and the military was by then firmly in charge of our government. The NSA came in and the CIA all in the late 40s, and by that point in time, we had lost our government. It was done and gone. It had been militarized.
Yeah.
And so that we've been living under that for 70-plus years at this point.
So then I would have to assume that China and Russia and any of these bigger countries or more sophisticated countries are doing the same thing that we're doing. And I would have to guess they must all be in on this together, because if not, I mean, wouldn't somebody rat somebody else out?
I would think so. And that's why I'm of the opinion now that there is no difference. There's no difference. All of the differences, whether it's communism versus quote-unquote what's left of democracy or socialism, it's all just a dance. It's a puppet show. Because as long as we're on fiat money, it's the Rothschilds. It's that money system. And so there may be a China versus U.S. ultimate issue, because there's always squabbling amongst siblings within the family. There's always a little squabbling, but yet the parents come in and settle the issue.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think that's essentially where it is that we're going to have to deal with the parents. Mike, I think the only thing we've got on our side are numbers. That there are billions of us, and a few dozen of them.
And this is what I've said, Scott, several times. I've said, which probably moved me up on the terrorist list, but I've said several times, folks, the only way we're going to change this is if we all come together. And it doesn't have to be every single one of us, but, I mean, let's face it. Our military is what, 1 million? Strong. I mean, you know, how many millions of us are there? So I think that they'd be wise to be on our side, and let's just change this thing. I hate to say it, but I don't see any other way to do it. It's, you know, I support our men and women, don't get me wrong, but, you know, I don't know. Some say that they'll be used against us if we rise. Well, you know, if we don't rise, we're never going to be able to.
That's right. You know, and the Nazis were able to exterminate a lot of people with minimum bullets, and it was their own people. And they willingly marched off onto the trains, then into the camps, because there was no mass rising. And much like the lobster in the pot, you know, the heat's on, folks. Heat's on. I also believe, and I don't necessarily believe I know there will be a time when there's an intervention from Spirit. That time is going to come. But only if we're willing to do the work that we need to do ourselves. Because if we sit back and wait for someone to miraculously appear to do it for us, that they will never come. They will never come.
I agree.
And so there's got to be some of us that are more activists and willing to do rather than willing to complain. Because complaining will get you absolutely nowhere. You've got plenty of that. You can turn on the evening news, you can turn on the news channels, and it's bloody complaining, and that gets nobody anywhere.
Yeah, it's all really just a big joke. It's all a big act. I mean, you know, these so-called reporters now, they don't report anything. All they do is they repeat what's put on those teleprompters for them. I mean, any of them, if they were to speak about even what you're speaking about now, they'd lose their jobs. You've got to go along to get along with these news agencies. Yeah.
Well, and these reporters and these anchors are you know, into the Bilderbergs, they're into the Bohemian Grove, they're brought in. So there's the gifts, there's statue, there's an aspect of protection until you break ranks, and then you end up like Dan Rather. Then you end up like, you know, Brian Williams.
Yeah.
You're turned on, and there's no way back. You're ostracized, and then you're left out trying to find your way back in, and that's virtually impossible. But then you've got to make a living with the black mark by your name, because you've essentially been blackballed. And that's really what we're missing in this country, is the freedom of the press. We're missing the freedom of the press,
and we're actually recovering it to a degree with the internet. However, I will say it's just as polluted on the internet as it is on the mainstream media now. I mean, you got shows out there that say, well, we're alternative this, that, but there's still control. And anytime there's control in what you're reporting, then you can never give people the truth. And so, I'm not saying just my show, but there's several shows out there that do a good job of getting it out there. The problem is there's so much put forth to suppress these shows that are out there doing good. So, you get the Fox News and the CNN thrown in your face, and those are the crowds I'm trying to get to now. It's because those are the guys that need to be woke up.
Well, and the other aspect of using the internet to spread this is that everything is collected. Everything is collected.
Yeah.
So if the laws change, what you may have said 10 years ago then can be brought and used against you today. And so there's that other knife edge that you're dealing with, what used to be this free and rich culture that the internet was bringing us. And just as quickly it may become a tool and is becoming a tool to use against us. And so it's funny how quickly this has been turned on us in less than a decade.
Oh, absolutely.
From, when Netscape went public in 1995 to 2005, when everything had to be swept up by the NSA.
I'm noticing also with I have email service through my website that I use, but there's other ones I use too, like Yahoo. And what I've noticed with Yahoo is certain things that I try to send don't get through. It's like it's being monitored, and it's like, well, no, we can't let them send this. I mean, I'll try to send a show I tried to send to one of the stations tonight. Would not let it go through. I had to use another email service to get it through. But anything else would go through, but it would not. It kept saying the address was wrong, and it wasn't. They were basically intercepting it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And I live under the assumption that there is no privacy, none, absolutely none, and anything you say, anything you do, is known, top to bottom, plain and simple. It has been for a long time. So we just kind of need to be straight up and full of integrity. So you're very honest. And if you are asked a question, they have your records. They've got the documents. There's no getting around it. So there's a standing in your truth that we're all going to have to face at some point in time. But I also know that technology can be taken away in a moment. In a moment, it can all be dudded, gone. Hard drives erased. A pulse from the sun, a pulse from the domain outside of time can take care of all of that.
That's right.
And so, I think ultimately that is going to be, and I use this term, consciously, it'll be a savior of where we are and of the situation that we're in. And there's no way the noose is going to be around all of us. There is going to be a population reduction. This planet is going to go through some changes. And I think that's ultimately their end game, is to manage that event. And that's why the FEMAs are there. That's why there's all of the coffins staged across the country. There is going to be some major Earth changes events, and that involves the oceans coming out of their beds. And so, I think they're aware of all of this. And so I think they're just kind of biding the time until these events begin in earnest. And once they do, they want to be able to control and nationalize food, nationalize transportation, nationalize energy, so that they can, then really have their grip on us. But I think that'll also be the time that we can break free.
Yeah, and you mentioned, several reasons that there are, and probably many reasons that you and I wouldn't even know of, wouldn't even think of. And I think that a couple more of those reasons would be, one in particular is the food they want to, because it's funny how Monsanto, not funny, but funny, how Monsanto comes out with an aluminum-resistant seed. And here it is, aluminum, barium, and other stuff that's being sprayed in the air. And I seen lab tests from scientists who worked on, I think it was What in the World Are They Spraying? He was the scientist on there, Francis, and he showed me lab reports where the soil and the plants were just very, very high in these metals, which was burning them, killing them. making the soil useless.
Well, and I think, yeah, it's going to make the soil unusable. And this is kind of where we there's going to be a lot fewer of us around in a short time, Michael. A lot fewer of us.
Yeah.
And the biosphere is just not going to be able to support us. I mean, we've fracked, I don't know what percentage of this country, but it's probably a fat 20%, a very fat 20%. And so all of that groundwater is, despite what they tell you, it's contaminated or would be. You have a couple more earthquakes and you blow a few more seals. The fault lines open, and they've all been weakened because of the injection wells, and all of that water underground is going to be contaminated. It'll seep to the top, and the streams will run clear. No fish, no water, or no birds, no cattle will be able to drink it. You know, it's insane what we're doing, just so the landowners can get a check for, you know, every month until the oil crashes again, and those companies then go bankrupt, and then these people have to then deal with all of this petroleum industry debris on their land, these retention ponds that nobody can service, and these wells that need to be capped, and all these companies go out of business because the price of oil crashes. And we did it why? So we get a 5 years worth of royalties. It's insane. And it's just greed gone to the nth degree. It's nothing but greed. And it'll come back and bite us in ways that we can't imagine. And then the generations to come will have to live with that selfishness, the debris, the leftovers from that selfishness. And so, you know, it's just a lot of things are coming. A lot of things are gonna come to the surface as we change governments.
Yeah, yeah, and you know what, you mentioned draining the resources out of this planet and what we're doing to it, and you know we are, and you know you got to think all the oil that we've been taking out the water and all these different things that we just keep sucking out of the earth. At some point, do we screw with the balance? And I don't know, maybe that's what causes the whole pole shift, because we're beating the hell out of her.
Well, you know, I think they know that an end or a reset is coming. I think they do. I think that's their end game. Yeah. And that's why they can play so fast and loose with the environment. Is that there isn't 200 years, there isn't 2,000 years left. You know, all of this, you know, global warming, 4 degrees C by the year 2100, that's bull. Yeah. We're not going to get to the year 2040. It's not going to happen. The sun is signaling ice age. That's what it's saying. And so once that happens, then the ocean levels drop, the ice caps rebuild, and the deserts go crazy. Desertification becomes the rule of the day.
And Scott,
let me our populations.
Let me ask you something. Do you know anything about this strike that's happened in Iran? This meteor strike. Any information on that? Because it seems like no news is really covering it, and it's kind of. But there's supposed to be some. Well, anyways, I guess my point, what I'm getting to here, is that there's been a lot of meteor strikes, a lot of fireballs seen in the sky, and so I don't know. I'm starting to think that maybe something is coming, and they don't want to tell anybody about it, and you know they're all set up underground, you know, so.
Yep, I would think that's a legit incident. I think there probably could have been, well, there have been several others. You do a simple search on YouTube. Google fireball, UFO. And what you'll find are over Tokyo, I think over Montreal, where there have been bright fireballs coming in. There's a crack that comes up and disrupts that fireball, that asteroid, so it breaks into smaller pieces and then continues to burn up. The one over Russia in February of 2013, same thing. There was an intercept. Otherwise, that thing would have hit Earth fully intact. It was broken up. So whether that is us lofting those rocks at specific targets on Earth, which I think is a probable thing, or we truly are getting into, a little busier part of space, and we're going to go through a swarm. Either way, we've got the technology to disrupt that. We've got our off-planet Navy. That's Gary McKinnon. When he hacked NASA 10 years ago, he discovered all of that. So we've got this off-planet Navy, and that means we've got the technology to do those kind of intercepts of those objects to protect Earth, plain and simple.
Yeah, they do have military specifically for space. That's something I've learned too, and yeah.
Yeah, because we've got agreements and arrangements with other races of beings, and they don't just show up here. I mean, though there are gateways and that kind of thing, they have to arrive. They've got to come in on ships as well. And I don't know. I think that's going to be the next round of terrorism. And who was it that basically said we would go through these stages of terrorism, and that would be the last one, is asteroids from space. Von Braun from Germany, who was instrumental in beginning NASA, Werner von Braun. I did get that right, but
well, many Bible people tell me this too. I get a lot of Bible. I won't say thumpers, they're not thumpers, but just Bible people who believe in Revelations and all that. I mean, I've been told for years that this is what's coming, and kind of crazy that it's happening. But I don't think it's all connected religiously like some of them do. I think there's. I don't.
No, but
well, what I'm saying,
I
guess.
Color into those eyes.
Well, we have technology, I think, that can do a lot of things that are discussed in that Bible, and I just don't put it past those who are calling the shots.
Right. I would agree with you on that, 100%. I would agree with you. Oh. And so whether they can stage a 9/11 or stage 36 rocks coming in from space, targeting at places to. Let's enhance that military budget once again. We got to get into space. We got to renew Ronald Reagan's Space Force. We need another $500 billion for this and for that. This is reason enough to do it. And so let's print a few more dollars, up those taxes. Either way, it's a confiscation of wealth from us for that purpose.
That's true. And one of our listeners, Scott, said, what's the purpose of even thinking about future plans? And I have an answer for that. There is an answer. Look, there is a light at the end of the tunnel, but it's up to all of us to power that light. I mean, we've got to do it. We've got to do this together. There's still time. Very little, if any, but there is still time. Do you agree?
There's time. I believe there's more than 2 decades. And granted, things are going to be challenging. Things are absolutely going to be challenging. But nobody dies before their time. That's you take this pill, you eat this diet, you run your extra 3 miles. No, that's crap. You've got an appointed number of days that you live on this planet. No more, no less. And that's divine. And so nobody goes ahead of their time. And you just live that time that you have to its fullest, and I that's just the way it is. So I think if we were to be too afraid to develop ourselves for the future, then they've won. Then they've absolutely won, because fear has permeated your being, and then you're not able to see what to do and how to develop and how to grow and how to become more divine in your own right. And I see some of these websites like beforeitsnews.com, and I'm like, oh, it's disturbing. It's disturbing. The kind of stories and the quality or absence of quality that's there. I mean, I wish I could use 4-letter words to describe those kind of stories. I really, really do. And how colored and egotistical and yet bigoted and disturbing, because if that's the kind of consciousness that we are, then let the cleansing come tonight. If that's really all we are, let it begin.
You've
got to be more than that.
That is definitely the pit of the internet. That's where any Tom, Dick, and Harry, they just throw whatever they want up there, and it doesn't matter what it is. And I've talked to the owners of Before It's News, and they say, hey, we let people post what they want. It's freedom of the press, and and what's okay, but it's like I don't have time to weed through what's real and what's not over there, so I just skip it all together.
No, it's delusion to the max.
It is.
Utter delusion. and yeah, I just there's
I know.
That's when you want Jade Helm to happen. That's when you want these things to happen, just to clean that out. So the rest of us can go on.
Well,
I said that out loud, didn't I?
You did, Scott. We've got to take a break here. If you don't mind, hang on with us for a few minutes. All right, we're going to put you on hold, so it's going to get quiet for you for about 5 minutes here. So
sounds good.
All right, so we'll be back in a moment. Everybody, Scott Stevens is my guest. He is a meteorologist, folks. I mean, if you don't want to take my word for it that we're being sprayed like roaches, then perhaps you'll listen to a meteorologist, because that's who's on with me tonight, and he's telling you exactly what I've preached for a long time. That is, we're being sprayed like roaches. My former right-hand man, Donnie, he always thought that the chemtrails were there to hide Planet X. I still disagree with him on that. I think that why would you need chemtrails to hide something that you need a special lens to see? So I never agreed with that, but I think there are several reasons why they're up there, and just because I disagree don't mean that I'm right. I mean, he could be onto something, but I don't think so. Anyways, folks, this is Late Night in the Midlands. I'm Michael Vera. We're going to take a break. We'll take calls when we come back. The L&M Radio Network offers a moderated chat room at www.latenightinthemidlands.com. Just click the chat and listen page from the drop-down menu at the top of any page on the website, or click the Listen Live button at the top of the homepage at www.latenightinthemidlands.com. You want the truth? Late Night in the Midlands knows you deserve it. That's why we make it easy for you to listen at www.latenightinthemidlands.com. Go on over, become a member, be informed, and by all means, inform others. Folks, we're not your average radio show. We cover everything. Late Night in the Midlands on the LNM Radio Network.
Hi, I'm Joshua Vera, and I wanted to inform you that Late Night in the Midlands is offering limited on-air advertisement. With 30 and 60-second spots available, or inquire about placing your banner ad on the LNM website. Or go ahead and package a deal, but either way, get the attention you deserve and join the LNM family. Contact us at mv@latenightinthemidlands.com. Again, that email is mv@latenightinthemidlands.com.
Hello, this is Lisa Marie, here to tell you about Oxy Silver, legally available only through CureShop.com and HealthyWorldStore.com. Don't be fooled buying silver products from copycats and criminals. Use 528 Superfood as a great tasting meal substitute for energizing organic nutrients and losing weight, and Zeolove and Natural Clays for detoxifying your body. More advice, all these products and more are available from CureShop.com, including Oxy Silver, the world's most powerful silver hydrosol, electro-energized to put risky injections, toxic antibiotics, and deadly drug pushers out of business. Oxy Silver is covalently bonded to water, unlike any other silver product, using the frequency of chlorophyll 528, what Dr. Horowitz explains is pure tone love, the universal healer. NASA originally developed covalently bonded silver hydrosols to keep astronauts healthy in space. Dr. Horowitz added the 528 frequency to NASA's formula and more. Oxy Silver works 3 ways to electrocute dangerous germs better than anything, far better than all leading silver products, and without any risks. Oxy Silver oxygenates and resonates with 528 for faster healing. So help save lives, putting drug lords and criminals out of business, and keep the LNM network broadcasting. Register for our free cooperative at healthyworldaffiliates.com/4948. That's healthyworldaffiliates.com/4948. And buy Oxy Silver and other great products in package specials at great discounts from theCureShop.com. Buy Oxy Silver, GI Flora Pro, 528 Superfood, Zeolove, and Love Minerals at great discounts at CureShop.com. That's CureShop.com with 2 P's. Cure Shop. Or call toll free at 1-888-621-7611. That's 1-888-621-7611. Do it now.
In many cases is the idea that the aliens are essentially trying to create a hybrid mix of themselves and ourselves. They're interested in our DNA, our genetic makeup. And beyond that, they're interested in our personalities, our affection for our children, our love for one another, a whole kind of range of what we think of almost the most human characteristics we have emotionally.
We have to face up to reality that, for example, the UFO phenomenon is a real phenomenon, no question about it. So anybody who debunks the UFO phenomenon itself don't know what he or she's talking about.
Hey, Michael, I promised you I'd call in for a little bit, and here I am.
I know that I bashed Bush the entire time. I wasn't even allowed on Coast to Coast there for a while because I was told not to talk about Bush.
In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
If you're listening to this, you are the resistance.
Late Night in the Midlands. We cover everything.
Years ago back on the farm, I would work outside from dawn to dusk out in the fields. I never had to question why. Say, hey, chemtrail, what are you doing in the sky? Nowadays when I wander, I would look into the same blue sky. Planes are up there spraying toxins and made the heavens into a garbage dump so high. Say, hey, chemtrail, what are you doing in the sky? What's your purpose? Who taught you how to fly?
On the east coast of the United States from the capital city, Columbia, South Carolina. You're listening to Late Night in the Midlands with your host, Michael Vera. To talk to Michael Vera, dial 803-317-2629. 2264. Or around the world on Skype. Just use Skype ID Late Night in the Midlands.
You most certainly are listening to Late Night in the Midlands, and we are back. And during the break, I scale the chat sometimes. I can't help myself. It's addicting, that chat room is sometimes. And people in the chat, within the chat room, were talking about having spouses or even family members who think that all this stuff is nonsense. And I'll tell you, for me personally, if Autumn thought that all this stuff was nonsense, if I had to argue with her about this every night, I'd be gone. I'd run. I would haul ass, folks, quick. I could not tolerate. I mean, it's one thing if somebody's willing to learn about these things and then make up their mind. But if they're just totally closed-minded, they're talking about chemtrails again. Someone like that, even a smack in the head or a kick in the ass wouldn't do them a bit of good. If it was, I couldn't deal with it, me personally. I mean, but if you're with somebody like that, I don't know. Good luck to you. You're gonna have to make the best of it, I guess. But no way could I deal with that. I mean, chemtrails are real. Geoengineering. Look up geoengineering, okay? And there are contracts out there. You can see documents. Government documents. I mean, it's real. Russia's admitted to it. The United States has admitted to it. I mean, this is a very real thing. So all that is that's a lazy person who doesn't want to crack out of their shell. And those are the people who are in denial, because you don't have to be in denial. You can go look it up yourself and see that it's real. I mean, I shouldn't even have to be preaching to anybody about this no more. I think that's like saying, it's a conspiracy theory that we may get hit by an asteroid. No, one day we will. We absolutely will. So it's not, if, it's when, and in this case, it's they are. We are being sprayed like roaches. And the only way we're going to win this thing and stop all this nonsense and this evil is just like when you turn a light on in the kitchen and the roaches scat. Well, that's what we got to do. We got to turn the light on. We can't see the light at the end of the tunnel, folks, because we haven't come together to turn that light on. So once we do that, I think we can then change things. If we don't, hey, I'll see you all on the other side. It'll be fun there, too. Anyways, let's get back to it. Scott Stevens, the call-in number, 803-317-2264. You're more than welcome to call in, questions, comments, whatever. It's Friday night. You're more than happy, or I'll be more than happy to take your call. And we're going to have a guest with us for, I don't know, probably another 20, 30 minutes. So, how long he hangs around might depend on you. So, call in, folks. All right, here we go. Back to it. Scott, we are back, and I have a question from the chat room here. And Bear asks, can you ask the guest his feelings on the chemtrails and the drought in California? I guess, is there a connection there? Do you see a connection? I kind of do.
Well, what I can say is that drought is engineered.
Right.
And because these chemtrails are a signature of the exact and precise location where the engineering is happening, then there's an interrelationship. But that doesn't mean that because there are chemtrails over Colorado today, and we had a lot of rain, that doesn't mean that they're one causes the other. Let's put it that way. Right. It's just a sign that is the agenda. The agenda is drought. Now, my feeling, and I posted this on my Facebook and Twitter feed probably about 10 days ago, that drought in California is going to end. And it's going to end this fall. And it's going to end spectacularly. And I'm going out on a bit of a limb here. And I'll explain why I'm having this feeling.
Okay.
We know that there's that blob in the Pacific. We've got aspects of the Northeast Pacific which are between 5, 6, and 7 degrees Fahrenheit above normal. Exceedingly warm. We're all in a very strong El Nino that is in the process of developing. We also have that French foreign minister talking about climate chaos beginning in September of 15. That's, 45 days from now. So we have three events coming together. One, a lot of water vapor can come off the Pacific because of its warmth. And El Nino would provide the trajectory for this Pineapple Express for these rivers of moisture to be aimed at the west coast of the United States. And then we've got climate chaos for whatever reason, whatever the trigger, and I don't know what it is, beginning next month. And I'm just going to say that the damage from the drought has been done. And as George Bush would say, mission accomplished.
Yeah, and here's a concern of mine now, is if the rains do start coming substantially there, then might that trigger an earthquake of some sort?
Well, what I'm thinking is that it'll be floods, and that we'll have parts of California, some of those wet peaks that'll get 100 inches of rain, and there'll be widespread 20 inches, 20, 25, 30 inches, San Diego, Tijuana, up to LA, and then of course those higher terrains just east of those will do twice that amount. And then we've got the Sierra, the coastal ranges, the Siskiyous, up towards Mount Shasta, and I think many of those locations will do better than 80 to 120 inches liquid within the next year. So it'll be a lot of water. It'll come very fast. And this is what the geoengineering and this ecoterrorism does, is it oscillates the biosphere, the planet, between too dry, too wet, too dry, too wet, too hot, too cold. And there's this small little middle ground in between, which used to be very broad and encompass a lot of the years where there was peace and there was productivity and there was enough rain and the balance was there, and we could grow, we could farm, we could be productive. But we're struggling to maintain that now because we're going back and forth between the extremes. And we've had the extreme. We've had the 4 years of intense drought. We've essentially drained the reservoirs. So the wildlife, the fish, that has all been stressed to the extreme. And the farmers are losing their ground. They're going bankrupt. They're having to sell and losing the water rights. And that's the whole purpose of this, is to change the ownership of the land from the families, from the small collectives, into the corporations, because they have unlimited money. Because they know these things are coming, and they can go to the Fed and they can borrow for 1% or 0.5% interest and buy up these assets that have been family held for generations. And so I'm saying mission accomplished. And the stage is set for a lot of rain. And there's probably California residents know when the water comes up what is safe and what isn't safe, which mountainsides will slide when they're saturated and which ones won't. But that's just how the story is gone. And so I'm on the record as saying this drought ends probably within 4 months. The drought will be over. And the rivers will be running at bank full and beyond, and will be above bank full for weeks upon weeks upon weeks as the rains come.
Well, and they have this drought really, I mean, if you take a lot of moisture from the atmosphere from one area to use on another area, then you get what you got in California, right? I mean, it's really caused by them messing with the weather in the first place, I would think.
And there's another aspect of this that we need to get out of the thinking of thermodynamics, because they're not using humidity as the tool of manipulation. They're using the etheric field. They're using the dark energy. They're using what Wilhelm Reich termed orgone, the life force of this planet. And it is highly, highly attractive to water. And that's partly why they use these trails, is through those fine metallic aerosols that they can charge and I hate to use the word, but poison, much like you would use a small electrical shock on an earthworm. You can see it contort with just a small charge, and it doesn't take but 30, 40 watts out of the side of an aircraft to impact the atmosphere, especially when it's laden with these particles, to disrupt a storm's potential or stimulate it. And if we're naturally on the larger El Nino-La Nina cycle deal with water coming in, this thing can be accentuated to where, say, a San Francisco winter of 35 inches of rain could very easily become 67 inches of rain or 90 inches of rain.
Well,
that can be done.
I began to wonder last night. Yesterday, we got hit with some serious rain here in Columbia, South Carolina, and it was coming down so fast and so long that I had a little waterfall in my yard where, it was just a little more and it would have been coming over the deck and, maybe going afloat soon. But it looked like around the house looked like a pond. I'd never seen it like that before, and I've lived here a little while now, so the rains are getting heavier.
Just be glad you're not out in Cali. As nice as that place would be, I was so drawn to try to move there when I was a teenager, but I just didn't. As a weatherman, it would be exceedingly boring. I needed 4 seasons. I needed topics. I needed to change the seasons to keep me interested in it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it'd have just been live shot with dogs and cats and barbecues and this mall opening and that mall opening and filler. Then the weather becomes entertainment. And I never ever wanted to work at a station where weather was entertainment, and that's what it's become.
Do you feel it's become that with the Weather Channel? Like it's just become this big entertainment. I see some use from them for what they do show. I've seen a lot more than I've ever seen before. But do you think that it's just too much entertainment for them?
Well, since NBC Universal bought them in 2009, they let go so much of the original staff. And the agenda went from essentially a mission statement of we do weather and we do it all the time, and our customer or our viewer is our priority. And the viewer and quality and accurate and timely information of the viewer became secondary to profit. And for NBC Universal, now owned by Comcast, I suppose, Comcast probably owned it at that time as well, you need viewers to watch more than 15 minutes or 18 minutes. You need them to watch for an hour or 2 hours. And going to entertainment or hour-long block shows like they have done saves them money and makes them money because they don't have to have a studio lit up. You don't have to have robotic cameras running. You don't have to have a production staff. You don't have to have talent. You don't have to pay their health costs. You just run a show that you've pre-produced, and that you can run that same show, whether it's Storm Stories or Tornado Alley or whatever you want to call it. That show can run 7 times.
I get
a single year.
I get irritated with it
money.
Because every time I go and turn on the Weather Channel because I want to see, because I have storms coming and I want to check it out. There's these guys towing these 18-wheelers in the snow, and there's all these different shows they got on. And I'm thinking, come on, guys, get back to the weather.
Right? Yeah, that's where it's gone. That's exactly where it's gone.
Why don't they have two?
Odd because I've had a couple of different production companies want me to host a show, a nationally syndicated show, and the outlet is History Channel, A&E, TLC, or the Weather Channel. There's all of those cable companies, those cable programs that do this kind of science-based or history-based or fact-based kind of series kind of shows. And me, because I'm tainted by this topic, I could never get a job there. I could never get a job. I have a history. I have a history of truth telling, so I could never be employed by them.
Well, don't get me wrong. Now there's times when I don't mind watching some of these different shows. Like if I'm going to bed and I'm just trying to sit up for a few minutes before I go to sleep, I might watch something like that. But my point, I guess, is that why not have 2 different channels then? Put your shows on one and let's stick to the weather on the other, because I don't know, I've had many times where storms are coming through, big time, and it's by the time they get to it, it's already gone by. It's like I could have been dead.
Yep, you could have been dead. Yeah. That's where your local stations are still vitally important.
Yeah.
Then they've got to call in talent and fire up the studio and get you through the night on those kind of events. Weather Nation, If you're the Dish Network subscriber, it's slotted in right next to the Weather Channel. When there was essentially subscriber fee issues with Dish Network and the Weather Channel back in 2009, these distributors and then the cable and then the companies were playing chicken. Like, we'll pull CNN or we'll pull the Weather Channel, we'll pull ESPN if you don't, cough up this much money per subscriber, per household. And so Dish Network started their own Weather Channel operation called Weather Nation, just because they weren't going to counter the demands of the Weather Channel.
Yeah.
And the day before, Weather Nation was supposed to launch, they came to terms in an agreement. But I believe it was in 2012 that Weather Nation was on the air now full time, and so there's an option to the Weather Channel. They're based out of Inglewood, Colorado. So it's big business.
Well, yeah, it is big business. So are there space weapons being used, or are they still using things like HAARP? Because I just read where apparently HAARP was going to be turned over to some university or something. I mean, is that a cover-up too, or what's going on? I mean, how useful? Because there's more than just HAARP, right?
No, it's not just HAARP. If you're going to manage something as complex as the Earth's atmosphere, it's going to take more than one station sitting up in Alaska. That's like a housing contractor trying to build a house with a hammer, a single hammer. I mean, that's just kind of ridiculous. Yeah. I think that's why I laugh at all these HAARP stories. HAARP this, HAARP that. I mean, come on, pull your head out of your HAARP. There's more than that. There's more than that. Get with it.
Well, yeah, and I agree. I think that HAARP was, while it might have had some uses at some point, I think that it was basically, it's just like NASA. It's put there for us. That's the illusion.
Well, it's a demonstration technology, and it worked.
Yeah.
It absolutely worked. And so then they built 20 more of them in the northern latitudes, and they built them in the southern hemisphere because they worked. But you can't do it with just one. And then you've got to have on-site verification and validation, and then you've got to measure what's happening, and that's the chemtrails. And then you've got to have, surveillance, and, it becomes so much more than one apparatus. But if you are to lift the atmosphere, much like, let's say you're lying in bed, and you have your sheets pulled up over you, and you lift your knees up in bed, you create this tent. And then you drop your knees, your legs down to the bed, and the tent slowly deflates. What happens to all that air? It seeps out the side. It seeps out wherever it's got an avenue of escape. And so what we have to do is, after that lifting has happened, you have to then shape the outflow, shape the movement of the air. And that's what the waves do. That's what these ultra-low frequency waves in the atmosphere do, is then shape those pulses. But you've got to have chemtrails so that when that pulse runs into something you want to maintain the integrity of, you've got to introduce a counteracting signal or a counteracting wave to cancel it out. And so you introduce a pulse, a ripple, you watch it, it does what it needs to do, then somewhere downstream, boom, you have to pulse it again to knock it down, to cancel it out. But you've got to run a chemtrail from the beginning of it. You've got to run a chemtrail to the end of the extent of where you want it to show up. And then the plane that introduces the counteracting signal also has to leave a trail. And then another one has to come in to mark it up to see that the mission's been accomplished. It's that complex.
Yeah.
I mean, it's elegant. It's a ballet in the sky. And I tell you, I got to give kudos to these guys that are doing it, because it is an amazing system, an amazing system. So all I ask is that at some point we get public oversight so that it can be done for us.
And Scott, I've got listeners who have spouses who don't take their dunce cap off. They believe that all this stuff is just some big fantasy and conspiracy theory. Where would you direct people? I mean, because I've seen them. I know there's proof. There's documents that show that the governments have geoengineering projects as well. The Russians had come out way back when and said that they were doing it. I mean, there's evidence for this, right? We're not just talking about a conspiracy theory here.
For me, the evidence was in the sky. I didn't need to read, although my natural curiosity took me there. But I was seeing stuff in the sky that I could not explain. And so I knew that there were some forces at work that I had to figure out. And you know, I've learned that it takes about 5 encounters, at least 5 encounters with a piece of information before people will willingly take it upon themselves to figure it out. First time, it's just a word. I read the word chemtrail in 1998. Yeah, whatever. Second time, I'm like, oh, there that is again. Third time, I'm like, I might read this story. Fourth time, oh, it is again, and I'll read this story. But it's like the 5th time you come across this information that you're like, I got to figure this out. I'm curious enough to know a little more. But that means you've got to put your attention, and your attention, and then your attitude's got to come into alignment too, of one of curiosity, rather than one of disgust or disdain or that person's stupid. You know, one of a judgment. You've got to have more of an open mind. And if somebody doesn't have an open mind, let them walk off. Let them walk away. It's okay. It's okay. If they don't want to know, let them live in their illusion. Let them be deluded for the rest of their life. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's not worth your energy. It truly is not. Because then you're trying to force feed something down somebody's throat that they don't want to deal with. And then you're both left with a bad taste in your mouth. Leave them alone. And when it's time for them to see it, they'll see it.
You know, when Autumn and I, when we first started seeing each other, or any dates that I had gone on since I've ever done this show, I've always bring these things up. I don't necessarily go hardcore, but I bring them up. That's the test, because if you laugh and think it's crazy and you mean it, I can't be under the same roof with you. Not forever.
Well, I mean, if it's somebody you're going to be close with and a friend and certainly in a domestic relationship with, then you've got to have some common ground to go down that road.
Right.
You know, that's a simple part of the dating process.
Well, of course, sometimes one will wake up. It's that they're already married. They love each other. One's woken up and the other one don't. And I don't know how that happens. You would think, like when I watch stuff, it's like I call Autumn over. It's like, come here, you got to watch this with me. And even if she don't want to, I make her watch it. So she sees that, this isn't just me saying that it's true. It is true.
Just don't get to the point where she resents it. Because then, you can have your own space and you can have your own realities. And that's the gift of our free will and that agency that we have.
Well, and
that is divine.
And that's the glory of it all, is I don't have to force her to know any of this stuff. She does know it. I mean, so I'm lucky. But, I also plan it that way. I mean, I've dated women in the past who... if you put them in a classroom, they got all the brains you'd ever want, but you put them in real life and they're just dumb. And I hate to say it like that, but I don't know how else to put it. Not dumb, I guess, but uninformed and unwilling to learn. They close the garage door and that's it. You're not coming in.
Yep. It's for me.
No. Uh-oh. Did we lose you? Oh, there you are. No. Uh-oh. We may have lost you. Scott? Hello, Scott?
Hi.
There you are.
I can hear you, Mike.
Okay, yeah,
okay.
We lost you for a moment there, but so we didn't catch what you said.
I can still hear you, though.
Oh, okay, great.
So I'm just saying there's a maturity of the soul that comes in. And, with 7 billion people, there's a lot of immature souls. And that's why I say everybody has their own destiny. And there are some of us that are in 12th grade, and some are in grad school, and others are just kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grade. Yeah. And all they want to do is go play recess and go be fascinated by what's out there and and then do the most basic of things. And then there are those of us who that bores the holy crap out of. There's other things that are driving us. There's another purpose for being here, rather than just going boating and fishing and all of those most basic things that, to entertain our bodies. There's another purpose for being here. And so we're all over the spectrum, and every location has to be honored because that's the best they can do. That's as far as they may get in their life, and that is okay. And so, it's just we let them wake up when they're ready to wake up, and a vast majority never will. Never will.
And that's about all we can do.
Those are the ones that vote.
Yeah, you're not kidding. Those are the ones that vote, and I have them in my own family, and I hate when these topics even come up when we're all together, because when these topics come up, I stand my ground just like I do here on the air, and so sometimes it's not pretty, and I refuse. I just have no tolerance for it. It's like, come on. I mean, I could see if you want to debate a little bit about something that I don't know, whatever it might be, but things that, you could be directed to evidence that, there's something to it. It's not just a conspiracy theory. I just have no room for that. It's like, people used to throw stones at those of us who said your phone calls and your emails are being tracked and listened to, remember? Yeah, no one wanted to believe that. Then guess what? Snowden comes out and talks about it. It's like, oh, okay, it's true. But you're still a conspiracy theorist because you believe 9/11 was an inside job. It's wow.
And it still needs to be legal because they need to do that to keep us safe.
You're right.
That's the one that makes me want to vomit.
Yeah. You're right.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, there's different kinds of thinking, Michael. You can think with your desires. To think of what you want. You can think with your emotions. What makes you feel good, what resonates with you, and then you can actually think with logic and reason and rationality. There's different stations within a person's involvement from which they issue forth their actions, and some are based on survival. I have to eat, I have to protect. Some are family-based and reproduction, and then there's desires, and then there's emotions, and then there's finally is rational thought. And everybody's at a different place on this scale of survival. And so that's why it's so difficult to work. There's a point for democracy and it serves a purpose. But when it's been corrupted, it's time to just throw it out and start again. And that's where we are. Is that process has been corrupted. Because would you really want to vote for somebody who wants to be president today? Who wants to be president?
Well, I don't think the vote's really going to matter anyways. And I've seen some of them out there saying, oh, well, Trump is a plant for Hillary or whatever. And I'm thinking they don't even have to do that, though. They control the voting. So, I mean, they're going to put in who they want anyways, unless some miracle happens, and I don't see that happening.
No, I wonder if we'll even have an election in 2016. I'm not convinced that we'll get there.
Well,
I'm not convinced.
It could be a Biden or Hillary in there, and Obama. They'll all be at home together. So you never know.
Yeah, or maybe the thing we talked about, Planet X comes by, the Earth tilts a little bit, and we're more concerned about eating, and we're more concerned about our local jurisdiction, and that the whole national concept is wiped out of our consciousness.
I could see it now. I can see it now. The Earth will be singing that ever famous song, "Gonna wash that gray right out of my hair," and it'll be
and lather and repeat.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to need to. Now, Scott, I read here where you had mentioned the Challenger launch. Apparently, I think it was you who said that there were Soviet ships off the coast and that it wasn't an accident that it blew up.
It's funny because that topic came up today with another discussion of someone else.
Oh. Okay, well, I read it today.
And it wasn't even that specifically, but, you know, it got to another point where I'm like, really, another conspiracy? Google, 3 words. Challenge, or what is it? Columbia astronauts alive. Google those 3 words. See what comes up. Okay. See what comes up. And I'd come across a story a couple of, well, maybe three weeks ago about somebody who did a lot of research on his own and found, I believe there were 8 astronauts, and found 6 of them alive. So, you know, I don't know. I don't know. I think there's been a great agenda to keep humans from space, to keep us off the moon, to keep the manned program, or to shut the manned space program down. You know, there's so much that happens out there, so many other craft that are caught on NASA feeds and so forth and so on, that it just risked, you know, disclosure. It risked disclosure. Mm-hmm. And so, Google those 3 words, Columbia astronauts alive.
All right, Columbia astronauts alive. I've got it in there. When I go to the next break later, I'll go check it out. But
have a look-see, because there'll be pictures of them. They're still employed. They're working. There's the pictures today versus before. Most of them didn't even change their names. They're still, you know, in their fields, but maybe in different towns. It's like the Witness Protection Program, light, not the heavy-duty one, but a light version. And so there's a reason why. Maybe they knew that there was going to be a takedown of that craft, and NASA was not willing to sacrifice those astronauts. So they said, this is going to happen. This whole story is going to be played out. We're not going to let you get aboard that craft. And this is what's going to happen to you. You'll be eulogized. Your families will be taken care of, but you will live.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's interesting, and I pine for the day that we have disclosure and that we can actually have an exchange of information and knowledge with others from the stars. But I also believe that humanity is still very young, and a great example of that is the Performance News website. You know, there's a lot of immaturity and a lot of delusional thinking that goes on.
It is, and I get irritated with it because the reason I do is because too many people, for a long time, I had people who would send me Before It's News type articles as evidence, and they'd get screaming emails back from me. It's like, how dare you even, try that with me? But, and what it does is it pollutes the mind, and, if you're going to be an entertainment site, then put entertainment up there. Don't call yourself news, because you're far from it. It's sad.
It's conjecture at best.
Yeah.
Granted that there are little nuggets in there, but it really takes a discerning eye, and to see through it all. And everything is colored through everyone else's lens, the lens of how they view the world, their programming, their utter programming as they've been raised and programmed through Fox News and programmed through MSNBC, programmed from the Republican National Party through the DNC. Everybody's programmed. And so we have these robots reacting to their programming, and then the news that comes out, and then they react via their programming. And it's truly robots in action.
It is.
It's really they've been very, very good at dumbing us down, whether it's through food, whether it's through a poor education system, through
media and television, and
through media and through I want to say religion rather than through spirituality.
Yeah.
And it has been used to turn what, a beautiful religion by Jesus and teachings into hatred and divisiveness and separateness, and it's sick, it's diseased, and we're at the end. We're at the end of how much all of us can take of this disease. It's economic disease, it's environmental disease, it's education disease, it's financial disease. It's religion disease. It's everything is diseased, and I don't know how to get out of this other than to just pulling the rug out from everything and letting it fall as it may. And then we lose our structures, our institutions, our finances. All of that's got to go away, and then this other aspect of truth has got to come in. It's going to come in from somewhere. I can promise you. I can promise you that. Some people will call it a second coming, and I think when that does happen, and it will happen, it'll be nothing like the accepted religions are teaching and preaching. It'll be nothing like that, because it'll come from a place above the mind, and the mind simply can't conceive of anything beyond its grasp. And that's where the divine resides, is beyond the mind.
Yeah.
And it'll come from there, and it'll come in such a way that everything we've been taught, we will simply look back and laugh at and go, oh my God, I actually believe that crap. I was taught that in school. I believed that.
I had that moment.
And that's what's coming.
I had that moment where I actually looked and says, I can't believe that I actually fell for all that crap. I mean, they had me believing everything from, well, we came from monkeys to, I mean, and they don't change this stuff. Still today, there's a missing link. Well, you're not going to find it then, or you're hiding it. So how about we get off the monkey thing and talk about where mankind really originated from, which they seem to avoid that big time.
Well, and there's, it's funny because creationists can't believe in evolution, and evolutionists can't believe in creationism. And where truth resides is where these two points of view, what they have in common. And I tell you, things are created so they can evolve. And it's that simple.
Yeah.
You create something so you can watch it mature, so you can watch it evolve into something else, so it can become something greater than what the initial creation was. That's the whole purpose. That's why you have children. You're creating so they evolve and become something greater than you are. And it's the same with this entire planet and every single organism that has been either evolved out of something else or put here to evolve. You begin with something, and see, evolutionists and scientists will start the amoeba, and we started from there. And creationists and religionists will start, but that God put man on this earth and everything else. Well, both are true.
Yeah.
But we evolve, we mature, and we become. And so there can be a top-down and a bottom-up happening at the same time. And that's what they're both missing. They're both missing that salient and important point that brings understanding rather than conflict amongst these two different schools of view.
But that's what they want. They want people to debate over these things, and because you'll never get to the truth, and that's what they want people to do. When in fact they could tell us the truth, like junk DNA. I don't know how many people actually believe that that's junk DNA, but I don't think that anything's junk. I just don't see, why put in extra stuff nobody needs, right?
Right. And then what's the trigger to activate all of that? There has to be a trigger for all of that to come into alignment. And there'll be a time when maybe there'll be a future show that we can do, Michael, and we can talk about those things.
That would be great.
That can happen in the future.
Yeah, I would love to do that in the near future. And before we do finish up here tonight, I do want to give you the floor to get out anything that you'd like, Scott. And your website is weatherwars.info, correct? Oh, did we lose you?
No, I'm still here.
Oh, okay, there you are.
Did you lose? Yeah.
Yeah, it cut out. NSA,
You can follow me on Facebook or on Twitter at WeatherWarsInfo. And that's, I'm doing this by myself. There's just enough things for me to follow and to try to keep up on rather than to manage a website, and I'll get to that. We've got another business we opened up here in Colorado, and so that's taken some time, and actually there's two going on. And Mike, what I'm going to be doing is doing something called the Cloud Tour, to where I can get on the road and do meetings and town halls and these kind of things where we talk about how to deal with this geoengineering issue and some of the greater issues that we're facing as humanity. And I will be doing a crowdfunding thing for that later in the fall. And it'll be called the Cloud Tour.
Well, I'll tell you what, let me know. Shoot me an email when you're ready, and we'll have you on. We'll talk about it, and we know whatever we could do to help, because this is very important, and it affects all of us.
Yeah, and I think, our goals are inform ourselves. We have to be sane and calm about this, and then share that awareness with others. And then the divine will cut the cord that binds us to this darkness that has kept this planet in prison for millennia. Yeah. That is coming. That is coming. I can promise you that. And so that's what I want to do with this Cloud Tour is to share this message that it looks bad. We're in a cesspool, and no matter where you look in a cesspool, you're going to find crap. There's other words for it, but that's all you're going to see. But there's a way out of it. There's absolutely a way out of it, and that's where I want to go with this.
All right, great. Well, Scott, I thank you so much for joining me tonight, and we do have you linked up on the website, and we'll keep your links right there in the archive as well for people to get to, and I thank you for taking time out on a Friday night with us. I appreciate it.
My pleasure, brother. And we'll do it again, all right?
All right, you bet. And keep up the great work. Thank you for getting the truth out there.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.
All right, good night. All right, everybody, there you have it. Scott Stevens, and he is a meteorologist, and he's telling you like it is, and it's not always, the truth isn't always fun. It's really not. I don't have fun telling you that you're being sprayed like a roach, but you are, and I know it's not attractive, and there's other things that are much funner to talk about, and I would rather be talking about those things, but, this is a topic that comes around every now and then, and it needs to. It's very important. It angers me. You can ask Autumn. If you're friends with her on Facebook, you can ask her. She'll tell you. There's not a day that goes by that we can't go outside, get in the car together, what have you, and I can't go anywhere without raising a fuss about those chemtrails. I hate it. I can't stand that they're doing it, and what I can't stand the most about it is that I don't know why they're doing it, exactly why. I know there's reasons. I mean, look, talk about the California drought. Look what they've done there. I think it was 50,000 homes got drought-resistant grass for their front lawns, is what I was, some statistics I was reading. They also had the drought-resistant plants that they were starting to put in trees. And, welcome to, Mario land. Well, how about Monsanto land? Monsanto, right? So there you go. And so it begins. Weatherwars.info. Scott Stevens, thank you so much for coming on the show tonight. We do definitely appreciate that. So the last half hour, what I'm going to do when I come back from the break is just open lines. If there's something you want to talk about, call in. We'll talk about it. Not until after I get back from the break, though. So hold on there before you call in. By the way, tomorrow night, for Dark Matter only, tomorrow night I'll be giving away a couple subscriptions as well. And folks, I'm handing them in to Marie, the extraterrestrial. I will be handing in the questions to her Sunday afternoon. You have until tomorrow night to get your questions to me. What do you want her to ask the ETs? You tell me. I'll hand it in to her. She'll do the best she can with it, and we'll do it here on the show. It'll either be recorded or live. We don't know yet, but it'll all be answered. We are planning another show very, very, very soon. So get your questions in, and she is going to channel back home where she came from, and maybe we get some answers from my now frequent guest, going to be a frequent guest, that is Marie the E.T. I'm loving it. I tell you, what a great show, and it's going to run tomorrow night on the Dark Matter Radio Network. You can catch it at 12 a.m. Eastern, or it's 9 p.m. Pacific tomorrow night on Dark Matter, right there in Art Bell's time slot for the weekend. I'm excited to be there because we're reaching a lot of people. We've reached a lot of people here with L&M, but we're even reaching out to more thanks to Art Bell and Keith Rowland. I appreciate that. You know, I've loved Art Bell through the years, and to be able to have my show in that slot on Saturday night, I think is great. So I'm trying to give them the best we got. And wow, you know, and a listener had wrote into me and said that he didn't think that we could get any better. But when we did the Marie, the extraterrestrial show, he says that we had totally outdone ourselves. And so, well, we'd do more of that. If, you know, hey, if you're an extraterrestrial, you know, be serious now, as I am. I mean, I know I laugh and have fun with it, but you better take it serious if you want me to. Email me, and I'd be more than happy to set up getting you on the show. You don't have to have websites, and you don't have to have books. You don't have to have none of that. What you need to have is a good, truthful story. And I will set up, you email me at mv@latenightinthemidlands.com. I'll have you on. Maybe you've been, I don't know, you've had encounters with Bigfoot. Maybe you've had demonic entities take you over. Maybe you think you're Satan. Maybe you think you're God. I don't know. Whatever it might be, email me and I'll have you on. I know some people don't like that. You know, some people don't like when you have shows like that, but you know what? I'm not one who does what people like. I do what I want. So we'll be back in a few minutes. This is Late Night in the Midlands on the LNM Radio Network. Need your L&M fix? You can find us on social medias everywhere, like our Facebook fan page, Late Night in the Midlands, or our Facebook group, the L&M Radio Network. Our other Facebook groups, The Last Frequency. You can also find L&M on Twitter at L&M Radio, and all of this and more can be found on our website at www.latenightinthemidlands.com. Again, that's www.latenightinthemidlands.com, bringing the truth back to talk radio.
Hello, this is Dick Farrell, here to tell you about OxySilver. Legally available only through CureShop.com and HealthyWorldStore.com. Don't be fooled buying silver products from copycats and criminals. Read Dr. Horowitz's book, Healing Celebrations, to learn how miracle healings can be made to happen through faith, prayer, and a pure diet. Get great immunity using vitamin C, D, and OxySilver. Liquid Dentist, GI Flora Pro, a top-shelf probiotic. Use Green Harvest as a great-tasting meal substitute for energizing organic nutrients and losing weight. And Zeola, and natural clays for detoxifying your body. More advice, all these products and more are available from theCureShop.com. Register for our free cooperative at healthworldaffiliates.com/4948. That's healthworldaffiliates.com/4948. And buy OxySilver and other great products in package specials at great discounts from theCureShop.com. That's CureShop.com with 2 P's. CureShoppe.com. Or call toll free at 1-888-621-7611. That's 1-888-621-7611. Do it now.
Hey, folks. Do you love Late Night in the Midlands? Do you miss shows because of the time of night? Do you wish you could listen at your convenience? Well, we can help you out with that one. Become a late nighter without the late nights and subscribe. Become a late nighter for just $5 a month. That's right, $5 a month for the paranormal, the unknown, the known, but most important, the truth. Go to www.latenightinthemidlands.com and subscribe right away to become a late nighter and help keep the LNM Radio Network on the air. The LNM Radio Network offers a moderated chat room at www.latenightinthemidlands.com. Just click the chat and listen page from the drop-down menu at the top of any page on the website, or click the listen live button at the top of the homepage at www.latenightinthemidlands.com.
There was an enormous football-shaped glowing object hovering a very short distance above the ground.
It got bigger and bigger and bigger, and the next thing we knew, it was right over us, and the light was so bright, then it stopped at treetop level.
I thought it was doomsday. I really did. I didn't know what to expect after seeing two more in the field across from my house. I didn't know if it was an invasion or what.
A hatch opened up from the underside of the craft. A tube came down, and a platform slid down. So this being comes down and walks over to the front of the patrol car.
They were bald, no hair, no eyebrows, no eyelashes, and no earlobes.
You want the truth? Late Night in the Midlands knows you deserve it. That's why we make it easy for you to listen at www.latenightinthemidlands.com. Go on over, become a member, be informed, and by all means, inform others. Folks, we're not your average radio show. We cover everything. Late Night in the Midlands on the LNM Radio Network.
The East Coast of the United States from the capital city, Columbia, South Carolina. You're listening to Late Night in the Midlands with your host, Michael Vera. To talk to Michael Vera, dial 803-317-2264 or around the world on Skype. Just use Skype ID Late Night in the Midlands.
That is, if you want to get through to us here at Late Night in the Midlands, you'll use that Skype ID or you'll call in. And folks, this show, we love the interaction. We do love the calls. We've switched a few times over. I mean, we've got a history. We've been around a while, and we've left a few places through the years. And there's times when we'd have, especially when we did the psychic shows, we'd have 200 phone calls in a night, and obviously never getting to them all. And so, I don't know. We've got a number. We've got Skype. If you want to contact us, you could do that. We've always made it accessible to the listeners because I think it's a very important part of the show. Are you kidding me? I think it's raining again. Well, welcome to the show, Ira. I think we're getting poured on again. I'll tell you, it hasn't stopped. It stopped for a few hours, and here it comes again.
Here comes the rain again.
Yeah, I'm going to build an ark. It's time to build an ark. And
we went through that here in Indiana, man. We had 25 days worth of rain in a row. And it was, that's way over halfway beyond Noah's Ark level, 40 days, 40 nights. We had 25 days, and this whole area is now just a swamp because of it. It's crazy how much rain we got dropped on us.
I have been trying to clean my damn front yard, and I get it going. I pretty much got it now, but trying to get, just when you're ready to do it, it rains on it and makes it heavier. And it's like, yeah, thanks a lot.
Yeah, we just got our gutters cleaned out here in this past week. We had a forest growing out of them because we had so much drop on us.
I've got a neighbor behind me that I don't know what happened, probably dead in the house or something. But there's the yard looks. I think I hear Tarzan in the middle of the night sometimes doing that. Literally, the yard looks like a jungle. It's ridiculous. It's starting to become concerning to me because snakes will gather, and snakes gather. They come into my yard. I'm allergic to snake bites. I don't want any. I don't like pain. So I'd rather not go there. But, you know, if it was New York, I wouldn't worry about it so much. But being here, I mean, who knows? A little alligator could be out in that stuff.
Oh, yeah, most definitely.
Yeah, so, but anyways. So yeah, chemtrails was the topic tonight. Not one of the most popular topics, but, you know, for me, it's a pet peeve. It's just like our kids being drugged. Those are things that I'll talk about any night of the week. I don't care. Yeah. They need to be spoke about. But
absolutely. And this rain thing, I mean, that fits right into it. You see that in a lot of cases, we have a lot of evidence that they really are moving the water from one location to another for whatever reason it may be. You know, it's like they're depleting the water out of California and they're just spreading it everywhere to the east, you know?
Yeah, they are. Ira, have you seen anything? I know there's some YouTube stuff out there, and I even posted it because, you know, I know that some of it's pretty popular with people, so I post it on the website. But outside of just the YouTubes, which they know about as much, I think, as we do, what's any word about Iran? I'm wondering what happened there. Was it, you know, because Russia, nobody held back. I mean, does nobody have dash cams in Iran that they could share with us? Have you seen anything?
It really is curious, isn't it? It's like there's a dearth of information that's going on as far as anything coming out of it beyond the fact that, we need to argue about the Iran nuclear deal. It seems like that's the only thing Iranian that they're talking about. But really, I mean, there is definitely something that went on there, you know, beyond a doubt.
Well, we've got listeners in them areas of the world. If you're in Iran or around Iran, I don't hate you. Call in. I'd love to hear what's going on.
Yeah, most definitely. It would be really grateful to have that kind of information. I mean, especially considering that when you look at the timing of things, the same day that they had that record-breaking heat going on there was the same day that these meteors fell down and slammed into the ground. You know, that's kind of important information for people to really kind of get into the head, you know, but nobody wants to talk about it.
It is. And, you know, today I seen released, they says, NASA's just released what it looks like on the other side of the moon now, apparently.
Yeah.
Did you see that farce?
I saw that.
Yeah, how about some close-ups, NASA? You know, how about that? But
yeah, they have all the images from the back of the moon. I mean, they had what was it? Clementine? Is that the name of it? The DoD when they sent up their probe. I can't remember. Was it Clementine?
I don't know.
Something along those lines. Anyways, they took basically, I mean, almost a foot by foot photographs of the moon, backside, front side, every side, and they've never really fully released any of the pictures that came out of that. They've released some, but definitely not all.
And, you know, and I'm getting sick of this. It's like, come on, one of these countries, you've got access, go get some pictures and release them. I always hear, you know, Russia says, we're going to release this and release it. Release it, because I want to see it, you know?
Well, exactly. That's one thing that just really aggravates me whenever I see anybody that's coming out with any kind of information. They're always like, we're going to release this information in 2 weeks. Well, why even say it? You're giving them a chance to come along and say, well, no, you're not, you know?
Oh yeah, they're going to release it in 2 weeks, and they'll have 8 flights in between that time, and one of them guaranteed to crash. So
exactly. And yeah, it was Clementine that I was thinking of. The Department of Defense sent up a probe to the moon years ago. They took pictures of every aspect of it, and they've never really released any of the pictures out for us to be able to see what is on the other side of the moon, you know. And
I'll tell you what, kind of good stuff, I had Donald Trump's money, you want to see how fast I would have something built that would go on the moon? I don't care what it was, but it'd be carrying a digital camera and it'd be snapping some pictures.
Oh yeah, and released to the public. I mean, I definitely would release it right into the public domain.
But you know what probably happens? If you did have that kind of money, you're probably not going to be allowed to do it. You're going to have people who are going to, you know, either they're going to shoot your stuff down when it gets out there because they have space weapons, or they're going to warn you. They're going to say, look, you know, join the crowd here. We're going to, we'll show you, but you're going to be part of our team. And there's only one way out of this team, and that's, through a plane crash or suicide or a heart attack, right?
It happens over and over again, doesn't it? They say they'll come out with the information, and lo and behold, the day before they get the information released, or a week before, or whatever the case may be, they are found dead. Oh, gee, they committed suicide by shooting themselves in the heads 5 times, that kind of thing. And it would be like, if I had information, I would just release it, just done, wouldn't give any kind of fanfare to it. It would just be out there.
Oh yeah. I don't hold anything. If I get something, and that's, hey, I got a big mouth. I can't wait to tell you about it. So I'm not holding. The worst thing you could do is say, I have evidence of this or that, and I will release it next week. Well, you're either full of what, or you're not going to be around next week.
You got it. Yeah. It's the same with any kind of emergent technologies. You see this with people that invent technologies to help extend out the gas, or new energy kind of technologies. Mm-hmm. They, before being able to release it to the public, they'll say, okay, well, we have this product that's going to radically change the way that you look at energy and all of that, and lo and behold, nope. It either the inventor gets killed off before he gets a chance to write anything down, or the patent is bought by another company, and there you go. You're never going to see it again.
Yeah, exactly. So, as far as the chemtrail thing goes, I'm sure that as well at one time was a technology that was being developed with great intentions. And as these technologies come about, the military industrial complex figures out how they can militarize it, and then it becomes theirs. And that's how it goes. Sure. And you either go along or, you disappear.
Well, I could see some aspects of advantages to being able to use it, being able to control the weather. It would be a great thing to be able to control the weather
and stop
calm down the storms, any kind of major destruction that goes on, all that kind of stuff could be eliminated, or at least toned way down. Areas that are very prone to drought, why don't we dump a little bit more water on them, that kind of thing, but just like with how I've put forward the idea that I'm not against the idea of a unified world, a quote unquote new world order, if you want to put it that way. But the way that they want to do things, hell no. Not the way that they want to do things, not the new world order that they want to bring about, and not the unification that they want to bring about. It's a completely different thing.
You know what? So, yeah, I would like, look, I kind of like my borders. And I know some people disagree with that, but you know what? We're the human race, and it's never going to be perfect. And as long as we're in these human bodies, it's never going to be perfect on this planet. And we need borders, because I personally don't want, I would love to just share the whole planet with everybody and everyone get along. How about for now we just keep our borders, and if you don't like me having my guns, you leave this country and go somewhere where they are not allowed to have guns. How about that?
Yeah, for me, the way that I look at it is that we as human beings, yes, we could be unified, but we are at this point in time infants. As a species, we really are. We are not even close to mature enough to be able to deal with not having borders, without having some kind of saying, this is your spot, stay away from each other, so that you don't just, start beating the ever living crap out of each other.
Yeah, everybody just respect everybody else. Now,
don't make me stop this car and pull this over. Right. That's what it comes down to.
But, and I agree that, if there's countries that are burying their women up to their necks and stoning them, well, if we could do something about that, then let's do something about that. But let's be serious about it. And if you're going to do something about it in the Middle East, well, then you can't overlook China, because there's a lot of bad things that go on there also. So, and then if you want to do that, then you've got to come back and look at our own government. So there's a major cleanup that we need here on this planet. And I don't see any one president or anything like that. I mean, we need a serious wake-up call on this planet, and I think it's coming. I do. I think it's on its way.
It is.
Yeah.
I truly believe it is. I think that maybe within the next couple of years, we're going to see the major, massive changes happen. And whether that's for the good or the bad, that's up to us each individually to decide, you know, and that's really what it comes down to. It starts with us first.
You give it more time than I do, my friend.
It may be shorter, yeah, but I'm kind of giving that as a max limit, basically.
Well, I hope you're right.
The longer, the better. I mean, you know, it's kind of like the what I usually say as far as predictions are concerned. I always say that the more people that are involved and the longer of a time period it is away from like now, the less likely the prediction is to occur. We still have a really good chance to change the way that things are going. But again, it starts with each of us individually. And you and me, for instance, and the people that listen to these shows, we're probably right there on the bleeding edge of, you know, spirituality, I guess you could say, or awakening, coming away from the great masses of humanity, basically. Not saying that we're better, it's just we're a little bit further along. The rest of the folks, they are still kind of trapped in this mindset of, you know, everything is me, or entertain me so that I can be happy and that kind of stuff, you know, as opposed to actually working on your own life and trying to progress yourself forward. We have to try to progress ourselves forward in order to really step away from the future that is coming, you know?
Right. And you know, for me, I see myself in a position where I'm in a place in my life where, you know, I'm awakening to more and more. You're never fully awake. There's always more that you know. So every time you think you can't be surprised anymore, you can be. Believe me, it happens to me on a regular basis, and I'm at a point where it's not that I think that I have it all figured out or that I'm right about anything. But what I do know is that what I'm being told is not right. There's the distortion in the reality, and I see it, and I know that it exists. And so I'm just going to, you know, keep having all of wide variety of guests on and learning more and more as I go along. And when this ride ends, whether it comes to an abrupt stop or if it slows down gradually, I'm going to accept it for what it is. And, you know, I think that we're here to learn. We're definitely going to learn. I think if people would just wake up, there's been so much that has been put in our way to distract us from what is true. And it is only since I've done this show full time that I have completely woken up and have actually had the time to wake up, because this is what I do now. So I'm always learning new things, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. And I think it's all part of who I will be when I leave this body, and I think that it's necessary. So, you know, whether you think the Galactic Federation of Planets is coming, whether you think Jesus is on his way, whether you think E.T. is going to save us, or if there's E.T.s within the earth that are living, you know, in a hollow earth. I don't care, whatever it is you think, you know, whatever. If that's your reality, if that's what you truly believe, and you're not just making it up, then so be it. Then, you know, that's your truth. Maybe that's what you're here for, but, you know, it's just not matching up with all mine. I'm saying if the ETs are coming to save us, they're late. I'm also saying if we're counting on everybody to stand up and defend humanity, I think I don't know. We're getting to a shady area now where I don't see that happening. But I don't know. Maybe when eventually, I'm just here for the ride now. That's it. I'm here for the ride.
We seem to be the announcers for the ride, basically.
That's it. Yeah, I'm your tour guide. I'm going to come on. I'm going to tell you what used to be there and what's there now. And
yep, exactly. If you look over to your left, we'll see the chemtrail. We'll see the chemtrail remnants from 1985. Over here, that's where the United States government actually started taking everything over.
It's like,
all that kind of good stuff.
It's like this. It's Daddy, what are those? Well, honey, those are trees.
Trees? What are trees?
Well, trees they used to grow out of the ground. They had roots and leaves, and sometimes food would grow off them.
And amazingly, they were actually wild. But now, these things that are left behind, those are created by our wonderful saviors, Monsanto.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, well, what is that, Daddy? Oh, that there? Well, that was a plant given to us by the Creator himself. It certainly heals a lot, but, well, what happened to it, Daddy? Oh, well, the world got taken over because people just wanted to sit back and watch television. And so now here we are. And so we'll pay a fee to take our kids to a museum and see what used to be. Because it's all going to be past tense if we don't step up. I know, it's just fear-mongering. But
yeah, people like us will be in the zoos, right?
Oh, we probably will, and we won't be allowed to read or write. Well, I strongly feel that if all this stuff happens that we talk about, then I'll be killed off. They're not going to. Why imprison me unless they want to torture me? I mean, but I don't see that. See, a lot of people will be in prison, but I won't. I'll be shot because I got a big mouth.
Yeah, you and me both.
Yeah. So
Tommy asked a question. I thought it was a really good one here in the last few minutes that we have left. He asked kind of in the chat room, but I thought this would be an interesting conversation, is what do you think is the biggest threat to the United States today?
The biggest threat to the United States right now, if you asked me this a few years ago, I would have said the geoengineering. But today I'm going to tell you the biggest threat is the people running the country. That's the biggest threat to...
I would have to agree with that completely, yes. It's like they are part and parcel, like what we see going wrong. When you look at the fact that there are 4,000 new laws that are created every year, just as one example, you see how everything gets out of control. I mean, did you learn your new 4,000 laws this year?
Well, they're not actually new laws. What they are is new rules for the slaves. Yeah. We're going to change up things here a little bit. First, we're going to come in your prison cell, and we're going to frisk your bunks. And if we don't find anything, well, then we're going to lay down the new rules. And if you disagree, we can always put you in solitary confinement. Yeah, I know. It's it's the same old song and dance. And you know what, Ira, if you probably noticed, the last couple weeks I've been a little going off, into some different areas. I used to just do, like, I don't know what you'd call mysterious type topics, things that go bump in the night, and things got so serious that I had no choice but to cover a lot of these serious topics too, because it's what I do, it's who I am. I love my kids, my grandkids. I want them to have a future, but and now it's gotten such. I'm so sick of talking about it now. I'm so sick of warning people and telling people what's coming that it's like I'm just going to have guests come on. We're going to talk about whatever. And, if people have something that's they seriously want to discuss, well, the lines are open. You can call in and we could talk about it. But, I mean, it comes down to this. We can't prove everything that we talk about. But if you open your eyes enough, you'll see that reality is distorted. Things aren't right. And I don't know how else to explain it. So people, if we don't come together, well, we'll probably all hang together. And, either or, I'm in it for the ride, for the long haul. If it's Planet X that's coming, I'll put on my 3D glasses. I'm going to kick back. I'm going to smoke a fat one, and I'm going to watch it come in. If it's the ocean coming, well, I'm going to throw on my swimming trunks and get prepared for my last swim. Whatever it is, I put it in the hands of God. I put it in the hands of the Lord. Whatever happens, and I'm not a religious guy. What I mean is the universe, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. I'm not going to stay up all night worrying about it. If I'm supposed to leave my area for a certain reason, if I'm supposed to go out in the street and clothesline a politician, well, then God will lead me to do that. As of right now, I'm going to keep doing this radio show until I take my last breath, and I'm going to keep doing what I do, and that is speaking the truth and pointing the finger when it needs to be pointed, and what happens.
We're not going to be here 1 minute longer than what we were supposed to be here. And this is the, life is the only thing that you don't get out of alive. That's really what it comes down to. Having fear, it really is not a useful emotion. So don't be afraid.
I'm not afraid of anything. I'm really not. There was a time when I even used to fear. I used to think, oh my God, I couldn't imagine if I ever got cancer or if I got AIDS or if I got, you know what? There's worse things that can happen. Cancer's curable. AIDS is curable. All these things are curable. It's, so if you're going to worry about anything, you might want to worry about those who are making the rules for you every day because, again, that is our biggest threat. And, I know some shows won't say that because they don't want to offend people. Me, I won't not say it because I can't keep in what needs to be talked about, and that is the truth. And the truth is we are in a lot of trouble.
Absolutely. The way that I look at things is why, if you're going to worry about something, it's really not useful. If you're worried about something, then do something to change what you're worried about. And if you can't do anything to change what you're worried about, then don't worry about it because it's not going to do you any good either way. Well, it's just wasting energy.
I've got my kit ready, Ira. No, not my survival kit, but my kit for the next civilization that takes over here. What I'm going to do is I liked what Ryan had talked about one night. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some Harry Potter books and stuff and lock them in a weatherproof chest and we'll bury it in the ground. And I'm hoping that maybe in 5,000 years, some new civilization finds it. And guess what? But I don't know. Maybe I'll throw us in there too. And I don't know.
Sure. We can be the priesthood of it.
I'll throw us in there too. And let's see what we get started.
Yeah. Sounds good to me.
All right. Sounds good. Well, Ira, thanks for joining me. Enjoy your weekend.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. Thank you so much for letting me come on here the last bit here.
Oh, you're always welcome, Ira. Have a great night, my friend. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you later.
You bet. Keep safe out there, everybody.
All right, folks. That's Ira Robinson. He is the program director, the station manager. He is the wheels behind the curtain here on Late Night in the Midlands and the L&M Radio Network. And also Jolene, who is the webmaster and does a fantastic job. So when you see her in the chat, tell her, thumbs up. Great job she does because she has brought us to the 21st century on our website. So we thank her for that. That's going to do it, folks. That's the end. Join me tomorrow night. I'll be in the chat room here on LateNightInTheMidlands.com tomorrow night. And I don't want to take away from any programming that's here on L&M. However, when I come on Dark Matter, it is midnight here in the Eastern time zone. So at that point on L&M, I think we're actually going into reruns, I think. So if that's the case, what have you, my show will be on Dark Matter tomorrow night. Take a listen. If you missed my interview with an extraterrestrial, you're going to want to catch it. It was a fantastic show, and it's not the end. That's just part one of many more to come. So with that, folks, happy birthday to Willie. Willie, my stepson, he's getting old. He's got a birthday. We're going to be having a party for him tomorrow here at the homestead, and so looking forward to that. Joshua, thank you for all you do. Everybody else, keep your eyes posted to the sky because you never know what you might see. Keep your ears posted to this broadcast because you never know what you might learn. Have a great weekend, and I'll be back with you on Monday. What do we got Monday, by the way, before I even go? Monday, we've got Rocky Krogfoss. Yeah, Rocky's coming on. Not to knock out Apollo or anything. Rocky is coming on about healing. Yes, healing therapy. So I think that he can even help you with that right over the air. So if you want to call in Monday, well, maybe you get some healing energy. Again, folks, this has been a broadcast of Late Night in the Midlands on the L&M Radio Network. Good night, everybody, and have a fantastic weekend.
the leader in talk radio on the internet, right here on K98Talk.com.
When our water heater broke down last month, it was a nightmare. It took 5 hours for the plumber to show up, and he charged us a couple of $100 just to come out. And then it cost another $1,800 to put in the new water heater. By the time it was all said and done, I felt like I'd been taken. But what else could I do?
The smartest thing you can do is get a home warranty from American Residential Warranty. Their home warranties pay to repair or replace all your major appliances when they break, and they will break, and at the worst possible time. Call American Residential Warranty right now for free information on home warranties starting at just pennies a day. Don't wait for your refrigerator to stop running or your ceiling fans to stop turning. Call American Residential Warranty right now. Ask how you can save up to 50% on washer and dryer coverage. Just call 1-800-513-6154. That's 1-800-513-6154. Again, 1-800-513-6154. Call now.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.